This is Jonathan Lane from Fan Film Factor, and today I'm here with a couple of fellows who aren't just fan filmmakers, they're also personal friends of mine. And one of them is Mr. Joshua Irwin, who is the showrunner for the Avalon Universe fan series. And the other is Mr. Tyler Dunivan. Yeah, there you go. Whose hair always looks amazing. And apparently he like just woke up and his hair was already perfect. Uh, but Tyler is the co-director of the most recent sling of Avalon releases, as well as one of the stars. He plays Captain Derek Mason, although not in this episode. This episode, he plays another character that we will talk about in a little bit.
Two other characters.
Two of the characters, in fact, actually, that's true. But we will talk about that in just a little bit. But first of all, I wanted to thank you for coming again and welcome you back to Fan Film Factor for what I think is like the 93rd time. Always
Yeah,
great to see you guys.
glad to be here, Jonathan. Thank you.
So anyway, today's fan film is the most recent release in early December of Crisis on Infinite Excaliburs, which some fans are calling a game changer. I'm not sure if it's actually changing the game so much as just being really, really well received by fans. It's got about, I think, what, 45,000 views in its first month.
It's coming up on 48 as we record this, so it should be at 50 within the next week. So
Okay. Yeah, but then that'll be 6 weeks. So, but anyway, yeah, I mean, it seems to be almost universally loved, at least as far as I can tell. I'm looking for negative comments. I couldn't find any. Have people been complaining at all, Josh, about it?
The interesting thing that I find is like the better a film gets, the more extreme the comments get. So like you'll get a comment that's like, "This is the greatest thing ever. I can't believe this is so good." And then you'll just get like the criticism won't be like, "Well, you know, when this guy came out the door, it just becomes, what a total piece of shit." You know, like
This is garbage.
this is total what the hell were you thinking, you idiots? You know, like it just becomes the comments, the better the films get, the more the negative comments just become generalized and mean spirited. And some of those I just delete. You know, if somebody offers like a real criticism, like, well, how come they couldn't use the tractor beam, then I may keep that. But it's like if it just is like, the I can't believe you made this total pile of crap, you amateurs, or whatever, then I just delete that. So because there's no point in engaging with a comment like that.
Well, I like engaging with them. Kind of calling them out. I'll be like, "Hey, well, first of all, thanks for watching and adding to our view count.
Yeah.
Also, where can I see your movies? Oh, you've never made a movie? Okay, then shut the.
Yeah, and the main comments always usually come from some channel that has no videos on it.
Yeah.
You know, so whoever's account, they've literally got nothing on it, and they're coming at you like telling you, "Oh, your costumes aren't tailored the right way," or something. It's like, you know, sorry, that's the money I had.
Sorry, it's a fan film, and
Yeah.
we add a couple more zeros to the back of our budget, not to the front of it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Custom tailored uniforms or costumes are what, like $500-600.
Yeah, pretty much a piece. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I've gotten quotes from people is $400-500 per costume.
and
So,
I
and
mean,
you just don't have the budget for that in a fan film.
yeah, I mean, and I'll point out, and we'll talk in just a moment about the origin of Crisis, but you crowdfunded it a couple of years ago for $13,000 of what you raised. You're trying to raise 20, not just to cover this one fan film, but actually to cover three.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, yeah, that's 13,000 for three fan films of this quality, of this caliber. That's a steal.
Yeah, it was actually like 12,000 something was the final number, 12,800 or something. So you can round it up or whatever. But yeah, to make three films off of, $13,000 worth of crowdfunding, I would say is pretty efficient. And then, the total amount of just Avalon Universe specific releases is going to end up being 15. And the total amount of crowdfunding across the whole thing is going to be just around 30,000. So 15 releases, $30,000 worth of crowdfunding, that comes out to like, $2,000 per film. Now, it doesn't really work like that because some of the films didn't use any crowdfunding at all, like Ghost Ship or Avalon Lost, or a few of those. But it's like I think to say that you only used $2,000 worth of crowdfunding money kind of per film on average, that's pretty efficient. So I'm pretty proud of the way that we've managed the budget.
And especially with what you did with Crisis in particular. And speaking of which, we're going to do something a little different today, because these guys have been appearing on a lot of podcasts, and a recent one they were appearing on, they did a director's commentary. They actually watched the episode and commented live on it. And I thought that was like so cool that it's like, okay, I'm going to steal that idea, and we're going to do that today as well. But before we dive into actually watching Crisis, I want to just go over a little bit with Josh the origin of it, because I know
Okay.
that this sort of goes back almost to the beginning of what
Very
you were
much
doing
so.
of Avalon, and Avalon has existed since what, 2018? Holiday
Yeah,
2018?
so yeah, it was 2018 where it was like May, June of 2018 when Vance convinced me to make a fan film, and then it
That's Vance
was
Major for those people who don't
yeah.
already know.
And then in September we were shooting Ghost Ship, and by October it was on the internet. So, a turnaround time of concept to completion of just a few months. And once we started getting into the concept of Avalon Universe, it was almost the day that we were filming Ghost Ship, I think, where I came up with the idea of Crisis, like while we were filming. And we talked about, the different ideas of things we could do as we were driving back from the shoot in Kingsland. We were coming back to Arkansas. We were talking about things we could do for future films. And even one of them is a deal where some of the concepts we were talking about for like demons that didn't make it into demons, like people calling each other, like tech the tech, science the science, captain the captain, that actually made it in. And that was the thing where if you go back to Next Generation, they were writing these scripts, and the writers didn't know the technical jargon, so they just write, LaForge, or Picard, tech the tech, Mr. LaForge. And so like that's something that we put in. So just like, yeah, it goes back to the beginning in the sense that there were only in the beginning I only wanted to make 4 of these films. And
Well,
so
that starship has sailed, hasn't it?
Crisis would have been the third of the original films we made. And the idea of what it was going to be got a little bit more fleshed out in 2019. And I came up with the idea for the name of the film in 2019, where I was like looking at, Rick and Morty and The Flash, where they had all these funny, spins on real movie names, like you know, The Flash and the Furious, when Harry met Harry, Harry and the Harrisons, all these things like that. And I was like, man, I want this film to have a name like that. And it just kind of hit me while I was driving around thinking about it. Crisis on Infinite Excaliburs. And then the original script was written in 2020, and if all had gone according to plan back then, which it rarely did, we would have made that film in 2020. But the fact of the matter is that the film happened in its own good time. And we couldn't have made the film that we made this past year in 2020. It wouldn't have been possible. Some of the technology that we used in post-production, lighting, that sort of stuff, it didn't exist in 2020. So we were able to take advantage of a lot of things that were new, stuff that was getting released on the post-production side of things while the film was in post. So the film just kind of came together when it did. We ended up with the cast that we did just because that's when it came together. So it's an example of wanting to make a film for 5 years, and it just kind of came together when it came together.
And one of the things that I wanted to mention about it before we start watching is that not only did it come together when it came together, at currently and in the last like year even, there's been a trend in fan films to really start collaborating more amongst different fan films and different fan filmmakers getting together. And you know, which I think is fantastic. I mean, it's just, you know, it's sharing resources, it's doing stuff that, you know, sometimes you can't do all by yourself. Before Crisis came out, I'd say that Yorktown: A Time to Heal was the most collaborative fan film ever, because you had so many different people, you had so many different studios. They filmed in upstate New York,
And
you know,
different eras of fan films
and
represented
yeah,
in that.
different eras of fan films, but so many different fan filmmakers. Yourself, obviously, Glenn Wolfe, and you know, James Cawley's group was involved with that, and George Kyan, and you know, Sam Cockings, and it just, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And I was thinking, you know, there's probably never going to be another fan film that's so collaborative. And I don't know if you beat their record, but you definitely came close, because you guys ended up with the aforementioned George Kyan. You had Frank Parker Jr. of Dreadnought Dominion, later on Project Gemini Crossroads. There, I can say it. You had obviously Sam Cockings in it. You had Nick Cook from Intrepid. You know, Glenn Wolfe and Dan Reynolds helped you out from you know, Federation Files and Warp 66. You filmed at Warp 66, but you also filmed in Kingsland, Georgia. And it's just like, you know, even I helped, believe it or not.
Yeah.
I have a producer credit on this one, so I can chat a little bit about how that happened. So this is really amazing, you know, what you've managed to do here. And you had mentioned to me at one point, I think in some other interviews as well, that this kind of collaboration doesn't usually happen in the film world, in the real,
No.
because Josh is a professional. Josh actually works in the entertainment industry, as does Tyler, as a matter of fact.
Well, yeah, you know, in indie film, it's very competitive. You know, it's like football. You know, you have to perform in order to get hired. It's a show me world, and the people who perform well get the next gig. And so people are always working to kind of stand out. And a lot of times you get people stabbing each other in the back. I mean, it's film is kind of a dog eat dog world in a lot of ways. And so to see that the kind of intense collaboration that's occurring in fan films right now, that's not normal. It's a unique and special thing. And it's unique and special in this era of fan films, because if you go back to previous eras, people were pretty competitive. And that had something to do with why the guidelines were created, is fan film groups were being competitive with one another. That was the exact quote, that, you know, the competition was who could have the most former Star Trek actors, who could have the best special effects, who could have the biggest budget. Now it kind of feels like we've got this attitude of we're all in this together, and we're one big fleet, and we're kind of working together on each other's stuff. So you know, we've got a lot of stuff going on. Like right now, right before we did this interview, I was working on a fan film called Harry Kim's Nightmare, it stars uh, David Chang, you know, Star Trek Fan Films International, and it was produced by Vance, and it has both David and Vance in it, and David's playing Harry Kim. And it's this fun little film that'll probably be out about the time we release this interview, but that's a very collaborative project as well. So, you know, it's just a thing we're doing now, and I'm glad. There are a lot of those you know, inclusions that from Crisis that date back to the very first script, that go back to 2020. You know, I had always wanted to have a cameo from George Kyan. I'd always wanted Vance in it. I'd always wanted Frank Parker Jr. to be in it. So a lot of that came from the beginning, and then some of it came from Sam later on.
All righty. And on that happy note, let us actually start our viewing of this with the director's commentary on. Quick spoiler alert. If you haven't watched it yet, this is not the time to watch it for your first time, because we're going to talk over it. We're going to say stuff that happens at the end, at the beginning. So if you haven't seen it yet, go to the link in another part of this blog, or the link in the description of the YouTube video. Take the 40 minutes, watch the episode, and then come back and you can watch it again. because yeah, we're gonna ruin it for you. Just so you know. There's one other thing I'm going to do. One of the things that really bugs me about directors' commentaries on DVD is that they get involved in these like really interesting, comments about this or that or whatever, and then the scene changes, and suddenly somebody says, "Oh, I really have to say something about this scene," and then suddenly they start talking about that, and they never come back to that first thing that they were talking about that you're really, really curious about. So I'm going to tell you guys, and I might do this myself a couple of times. If you want me to stop the video, just say stop the video, and we will stop it, and we'll have our conversation, and we'll start up again. Okay. All righty.
So if you are watching this, pause it, go grab your popcorn or snack of choice and beverage of choice, perhaps adult beverage even, and then come back and hit play.
Hyperspace windows forming.
So this first sequence here was completely conceived of by Sam. He came to me and thought it would be a great idea to have like a Stargate cold open in a Star Trek fan film, which is something no one's ever done before. And he produced this whole segment. He put it together, filmed it, coordinated everything with Nick Cook of Starship Intrepid, which you'll see here in a second. Here he is. And his father was the other crew member on this ship. And, he sold me on it, and I thought it was great.
And Sam also wrote this too, right? Didn't he?
We kind of worked together to come up with the script for this part.
What happened?
But this whole thing was not in the original script at all.
Yeah, and I remember that because it was just a cold open in, I think the Prime universe actually.
Yeah.
Detecting multiple other ships.
There's Sam's dad, Sam Cocking's
Designs I
dad.
don't recognize.
Steven, great guy.
Today just
He was on set for Crisis.
complicated.
And this open that you see coming up here, if you'll pause it, this is kind of a take on the open for the CW Crisis on Infinite Excaliburs. I went and looked at that with the individual characters inside the letters and the stuff flying by. So that was something that was kind of a little homage to the Crisis on Infinite Earths CW series.
Oh, that's cool. Here, let's take a quick look at that again. Ta-da! This is what you can do when you're controlling the video.
Yeah, see?
I like that.
If you were to compare that, you'd see that they're very similar. So it's just a little homage there. And again, this is another part that was kind of added a little bit later on once we clearly defined our characters in this era. I thought it was important to have some character growth, especially with Aoka. And so I wanted her to have a very clear scene with Menard where they bonded and they talked about why she should be the person to take over engineering on the Excalibur from him.
Actually,
now, an interesting.
Yeah, go. I know exactly what you're going to say, so I'm going to pause it right now. Go ahead.
Okay, so an interesting thing to note is that they were never on set together. In fact,
that is amazing. I just have to say, as you watch this scene, everybody, just look at the lighting, look at the shadows, everything. I mean, that is all on Josh. Not only were they not on the set at the same time, how long apart were their two scenes filmed?
Almost a calendar year apart. And because Jennifer's a little bit more difficult to get on set, takes a little bit more to coordinate her schedule because she's a working actress. And, Vance, we had Vance. And so we had to shoot them separately. And not only were they shot separately, not only were they shot a year apart, they were shot in completely different towns. So they're not even in the same studio. And at this part here, Vance is reading his scene partner is Tyler, and Jennifer Rader, her scene partner is Alexandra Rexford. And so this scene is completely created in post.
And that's really amazing. So let's
the new coils can handle a lot more energy output in this configuration, but they're sensitive. Too little and there's just not enough Cochrane distortion to create the kind of truly powerful warp field we're going for. Too much and you could fry the coils.
You really know your stuff. We were really tearing out our hair over this.
So our director of photography, Neil Bilby, used a specific lighting effect here on Vance to kind of make it look like the screens were flickering on his face.
My girlfriend in the background on the left.
Jamie Archer. You're not the first person to make that comparison.
And this, of course, this background doesn't exist. This This background plate here is one that I stole from the Lost Starship, and it's actually in between takes. So what you're seeing behind Vance is stuff from the Lost Starship that's in between takes and blurred. And then behind Jennifer and in the two shot is sort of a digital set that I created.
And I want to talk about collaboration one more time, because as Tyler mentioned, that's his girlfriend there in the back on the left. So Tyler met Tatiana on the set, Kingsland Studios,
Shooting Crisis.
Neutral Zone Studios during the filming of Crisis on Infinite Excaliburs. And Tyler lives in Arkansas. She was living, I guess, in Georgia and Florida. Where was she?
Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah.
Jacksonville, Florida. Now where is she living?
Here.
So love in the fan film world and the community. So just want to give Tyler a little applause there for
thank you. We didn't actually get together until we didn't actually start talking until very, very late August. We just hit it off, and yeah.
And then one last note on this shot, on screen right, the background actor screen right is Brian W. Peterson, who is the author of The Lost Starship.
And if you guys haven't seen The Lost Starship yet, and I did a blog on that a little while ago, it's definitely worth it. That's from Neutral Zone Studios, one of the details from Neutral Zone. It's a really, really good fan film. So, if you have a chance and you have some extra time, go and watch The Lost Starship right after you finish watching, or if you already have, Crisis on Infinite Excaliburs. All right, here we go. Back to the movie.
And then, of course, this entire scene is green screen. So they're both on green screens, different locations. And this was, like I said, this whole scene was put together in post. This, of course, is a callback to where Jamie Archer died.
We don't get into Starfleet because it's safe there. There's a reason why she was the chief engineer of the ship.
But I just felt that this scene would be important to have to establish, the camaraderie that developed between Aoka and Menard, and then Menard demonstrating his trust in her. Aoka is going to go on to be the Leah Brahms of Avalon Universe in a way.
You can do this.
Oh, interesting.
Whose butt and legs are on the top left?
Decisions like this.
Julie.
On the ladder, is that Julie?
I'll give it my all, Captain.
Julie always jokes that the thing that people see in fan films the most is her butt. Which is true.
100%, but it's not enough.
We can increase to 125%.
Of course, the camera shake is in post, and Vance was reacting a little bit more than Jennifer did, so we had to shake the camera a little bit more for Vance. I had to time it to where it would ebb and flow and shake more with him. So now this is the original beginning of the first script. So if we had made it the way the first script was written, we would have started here in the Prime universe.
Emanating from a powerful neutron star. Preliminary readings indicate that the waves are expanding.
Of course, we have Captain Allen in the Prime universe. Unlike her counterpart, she is the captain of the Excalibur.
And by the way, I love this person, whoever this is in the front and that makeup
So that's
job.
Kelly Hodges.
Yeah, Kelly's great.
Kelly Hodges is a person you're going to be seeing a lot in fan films. She's now a series regular on Dreadnought Dominion, playing a character. But this alien makeup thing she did herself, and I loved it. And so I used her both as this in several different places, but I also had her just as herself in a few different places as well. But she's amazing. And in the next tales, or two down, one of the next tales from the Neutral Zone, she's actually going to play Tasha Yar.
Oh, I could see that working.
And she was in she was the communications officer in Knights the Void, our previous film.
Yeah, she was.
Totally different look. She played a human. She was, she had short hair and.
Captain, they're hailing us.
She can have a lot of different looks to her, and she's a very talented actress. Her first real acting debut was in the Dreadnought Dominion episode, The Replacements. So go check that out. She's fantastic in it.
There you go.
And she's got
have to watch now.
And she's got a great attitude. She shows up. She does her stuff. She does what she can to contribute. She doesn't complain. She doesn't, make more work for us. She's just great.
And before we go on, I just want to point out something I'm sure Josh is going to mention as we go on as well. Some of these scenes are filmed at Warp 66, and some of these are filmed at Neutral Zone Studios. And here's your drinking game. Try to figure out which is which. And if you can figure it out before Josh says it.
I wanted the different ships in the different universes to have a different look and feel to them, so they would be distinctly different ships. And I think that the choice to shoot some of it at Neutral Zone and some of it at Warp 66 really paid off in that regard.
And this one's Neutral Zone right now, right?
This is Neutral Zone here.
So here we go.
And is Dee Dee's her first officer, right?
Yep.
That's Dee Dee.
And the primary star.
Dee Dee, so this is Caitlin Bailey, and she is playing the female version of Tyler's character. So she is Dee Dee Mason, who is the female doppelganger of Derek Mason.
And that's Luis Sanchez right there. And he's been in a number of different fan films.
He's great.
He's the rock star of Neutral Zone Studios.
Yeah, he was in Doomsday, by the way. He played Masada, the first officer of the Constellation, who was killed along the rest of the crew. And he did an amazing job in that, too.
And Test of Time.
Yep, and we're going to see more of
Time.
it in Tales from the Neutral Zone.
Give us maximum warp. We're overloading the dilithium crystal chamber, Captain.
Oh, there's Sam's dad.
Push it right to the edge.
Structural integrity weakening.
Actually, I'm going to go back to Sam's dad for a second. Hold on, before I realize that. Here we go. So there's Stephen Cockings. I just wanted to mention that Sam's dad went down to Neutral Zone Studios for his birthday.
That's right.
Because he
his
lives.
birthday-
He
The
lives
way
in the
he
UK.
chose to celebrate his birthday was to come to our film shoot.
Yep. I thought that was absolutely hilarious because he's in a whole bunch of Sam's Trek Shorts fan films as well. It's like, how great is your dad to want to actually give up his valuable time to be in your silly little fan films?
My dad would never do that.
Mine can't anymore. But even when he was alive, my father probably wouldn't have really bothered with it. But Sam's dad is a complete and total Trekkie. Loves it all, is very supportive of his son. And when it came time to celebrate his birthday, Stephen Cockings came to America specifically to be in your fan film. And even Sam didn't come down. It was just his dad, right?
And Stephen was great on I think it was on the day that was his birthday. I believe it was the Sunday, the second day that we were shooting. We had a scene where he was just background. He was just an engineer. He was just kind of standing next to the other character that had a lot of dialogue. And he actually ended up doing part of that other character's dialogue because the actor that we had was struggling a little bit. And, and to be fair, it was a lot of dialogue. So I'm not,
That's the next movie.
not dumping on the other actor, but Stephen ended up doing a good, chunk of that other person's dialogue, and he was great. He just nailed it. Yeah. Oh, you're right. It's not in this film. It's going to be in Once in the Future, Captain. But yeah.
Okay, that's what happens when you film 3 different fan films at the same time, which we're going to talk about at some point. How you were actually, in the studios and literally filming 3 fan films at the same time, having to keep track of which scenes were for what and which actors and what have you.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's continue on to the beginning of the episode here because we're almost at the opening credits. Well, not the opening credits, but the opening.
Super friendly guy too. It was a pleasure to meet him and have him there. So.
All right, here we go.
Push it right to the edge.
Structural integrity weakening.
Structural integrity weakening.
How many times have you seen this, Jonathan?
Way too many to count.
Not as many as I've seen Interlude.
And then suddenly,
Magnify. Full scan.
And one thing you'll notice too is I used different view screen plates for Prime Universe than Avalon Universe. Because I was forced to use the same view screen for all the different universes, so I made it look different depending on which bridge I was pairing it with.
And the 2 that were just standing on either side of the turbo lift in the background, we're going to see them in both of them in much more prominent roles in some upcoming films.
Captain's log, supplemental. We have somehow been
All right, I want
We
to ask the
call this
question.
the parallels shot. You know, because you got that shot from Parallels where the Enterprise is in the foreground and all the Enterprises are appearing. So while we were going through the phase of creating the shot with Sam, we called it the Parallels shot because it kind of resembles that.
And I wanted to ask you a quick question about the music. And by the way, Adam Mullen, your composer, is an absolute genius. But at the very beginning of this scene, you hear that dun 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 dun. Was that Adam, or was that actually
that was
from Star
actual
Trek?
TOS music, and so there were places where I dropped some TOS music in, and he and I talked about that you know, we were trying to give it the parts that are in the Prime universe, we wanted to look uniquely TOS. So we went with TOS music on those parts to add to that feel.
All righty.
to a dimension outside of our own space-time continuum.
Definitely the
And then, of
parallel
course, you
shot.
go directly into this shot here, which is a TOS homage.
We don't know how we got
You
here.
know,
The Doomsday
to the
Machine,
Doomsday
right?
Back.
Yeah.
You said we've left our space-time continuum. Explain.
And then, of course, this is a TOS homage where you'd have Kirk and Spock kind of in these two positions here, even sort of recreating the camera angles a little bit of a, you know, typical Kirk and Spock conversation.
I notice you're moving the camera. You're zooming ever so slightly.
Exactly.
And let's
For
see,
any
are you
event,
zooming on
there's
her?
an infinite number of
Yeah, I
possible
see. There's a
outcomes.
little bit of zoom going on. So I want to ask you, as a director, was that something you did in post, or is that something that you were doing with the camera live?
That was in post. And that's the advantage that we get from shooting in the massively high resolutions we can shoot in now. Where we can shoot, we were shooting in 6K for this. So, you know, even if your final presentation is in 4K, that gives you a lot of latitude to zoom in and post and it not, like, you know, distort. So that's a very common thing that we can do now, and it helps a lot.
And I noticed that there's the obelisk behind her. I hadn't actually noticed that before. But that image inside of the view of I guess that's a view screen or whatever. You put that in post too, right?
No, that was done. I created that before the shoot, and we actually installed monitors on the set, so that we wouldn't have to do that as much.
Okay.
So part of our crowdfunding money went to putting monitors at Warp 66, because this is Warp 66 here. So we installed, you know, some monitors so that we could play some LCARs that we created off of, like, just thumb drives and stuff like that.
Cool. Okay.
And our choices determine the outcomes. Now, there is a theory in quantum physics that any possibility that can happen does happen and exists in an alternate quantum reality. Our universe is part
And that's
of
a ported
an
cutaway
ever-expanding
from Agent of New
multiverse.
Worlds.
There could be a reality out there where the Excalibur has a different captain, or where you never even joined Starfleet.
Or one where I live my dream of being a holographic soap opera star.
So on this shot here, like, about going back to what you previously asked, so if you want to pause this shot, so the two top LCARs and then screen right, that's all in camera. So those were monitors we installed. But if you go far screen left, that one is post. So there is a mix. So some of the displays you see are post. Some of them are practicals. So,
and I gave Warren the direction on set to really ham up that, or instead of don't just deliver the line straight like you're considering it, like, or perhaps one where I play out my dream of being a soap opera star or whatever. I was like, no, to like do a almost Jim Carrey like turnaround and face the camera and like do your hand up like this and make it really stupid, dramatic, over the top, and he nailed it.
Now that actually
something about Jakande there.
and in fact, let's just watch that again. I'm going to ask Tyler something really quick. Here we go. I love that. All right.
Or one where I live my dream of being a holographic soap opera star.
So Tyler, I want to ask some questions to you too, as well. Again, a lot of technical stuff from Josh, but you were there pretty much as director of the actors. Josh, you weren't really worrying about getting performances out of them. That was really where Tyler was coming in. So how did that work out? I mean, what did you guys do together, if anything, or was it just Tyler, you're in charge of the acting, the performances, and I'll take care of everything else?
I would tell him what I wanted, and then he would go work on that. But I had enough confidence in him to let him freeform a lot of it.
Yeah, I kind of got thrown into the deep end on this one. He just, I guess maybe I did too good a job before, and he like just trusted me. He was just like, not micromanage at all. He was, like, here's the actors, here's the scenes, do rehearsal, get them ready, here you go. And and all of a sudden I was in charge of 50 people. Had 50 people coming at me with questions and, hey, what do I do? Do you need me on this? But and it was a lot. It got really hectic at one point, and then on the second day, I remember Caitlin wasn't actually acting that day, and she was like, "Hey, so if there's anything I'm not acting today, so if there's anything I can do for you, let me know." And I was like, "Yes, you're going to be my assistant." So and she took it dead serious, and she was just if I needed somebody in a certain costume in a certain place at a certain time, I'd be like, Caitlin, go get me Warren in, Chakande uniform, and I need him, or I need this person, or I need, I need, this many background actors in this color or that color. I need a red, a blue, and a yellow, and have them, be in engineering in 10 minutes. And, and she'd go round up the people, take them to Glenn would get them uniforms and badges and whatever. And, so that I could, have more time, less time physically running back and forth all around the studio, and so I had more time to be hands-on with rehearsals. So and it was the first time the first time that I actually got to was given the responsibility of actually choreographing the background action myself, instead of Josh taking the background actors to be like, you stand here, you stand here, you stand here, you're going to walk this way, you're going to walk this way, you're going to go around that corner, and blah blah. And you go when you hear background action instead. And then, okay, Tyler, now take them through the rehearsal for it. Like, instead of doing that, like had been previously done, Josh just looks at me and says, I need background action, make it happen.
Because
so now
because this was a production was so big, I didn't have time for that.
I know.
I was worrying about so many different things. Previously, what would happen is, I kind of enjoyed choreographing the background action, because then I would give people crazy motivations, like you have really bad diarrhea and you got to get to that bathroom, or I'd be like, you're trying to get somewhere and these idiots are in your way, and you're just like annoyed that they're there. So I would give the background actors like motivations for why they were doing things. And that was fun, but we had so much to do with not only the nature of this project, but the fact that, again, we were shooting 3 films. There just wasn't time for it. I had too many things to do. So Tyler stepped up and helped me in that regard. And he made a funny little mistake that was great, and we went with it, that we'll talk about later.
Okay, and before we go, okay, but the question I want to ask Tyler before is, so how much time do you, as an acting coach director, spend preparing an actor for a scene? I realize that's probably like asking how much do you pay to buy a car, but typically, how much time, depending on how long the scene is, are you spending with the actor preparing for it?
On the day, usually an hour or two. Well, usually as Josh starts setting up the technical side, he's like, okay, I'm setting up this shot, you start rehearsals for the shot. So it could be typically a hour and a half.
And the hour and
that can vary.
And that's to get like maybe a minute of dialogue, if that, right?
Yeah, basically.
Whatever the scene is, yeah. Couple minutes.
I mean, I realize, there's a lot of fan filmmakers out there, watching this. Some of them don't run lines at all. Some of them run a little bit and do like, 1 or 2 rehearsals and then do it or whatever. And some of them are, really working with the actors. So I think it's interesting to find out how long one would spend with the actors before actually shooting the scene. Get 30 seconds.
Well, it depends on how ready the actors are themselves.
Right. I was about to say, and of course it's, as actors, you know, there's an expectation that they be prepared, that they're doing, they're running their lines themselves at home with a friend or whatever, weeks or months, before shooting. So it's expected that they know their lines once they get on set, and and there are varying levels of that preparedness. Sometimes an actor they've got their lines, they know all their lines, verbatim, to memory.
Alex.
Sometimes parts of their dialogue they're still kind of working on, or and then sometimes you have an actor that doesn't know their lines at all, and we're learning them there on the day, so.
Did you have any of those in this?
Not on this film. Not that I recall. No.
So
Once the Future Captain, yes.
Okay. Which is the next release and the final release, actually, from Avalon Universe. But we'll talk about that when that comes out. Anyway, well, last thing before I hit the play button again, because I realize you guys have been very, very patient. But I just want to point out for folks who don't necessarily know what a director of photography does, and that's Neil Bilby, in this, for this shot. Take a look at this shot. Just take a look at how sharp Warren's face is, Captain Jakande, and the softness of the background and the softness of the foreground. So you know exactly what you're looking at. I mean, this is a beautiful still when you think about it. I mean, I could just pause this fan film anywhere, and things are gonna be in focus that are supposed to be in focus. Things are gonna be blurred that are supposed to be blurred. It's a work of art, Josh. I just want to say that at this point.
Yeah, every frame of film should, at all possible, be a still photo or a painting. So that's generally, they call it every shot of Rembrandt. Now there's various levels of practicality of what you're able to accomplish, and if we had more time, we probably would have done a few more things with even this particular shot. You've got a good amount of contrast on Warren's face, but Alex is a bit flat. So, but that was time. That was the time that we had to shoot it. So, there are a lot of factors that go into it.
I mean, but it's also not easy to light somebody, with very dark skin like Warren has.
Yeah.
But you've got him. I mean, he looks amazing there. I'm actually thinking, we should probably print this out and send it to him as a photo for his birthday or something.
He'd like that.
All right, let's put the play button. Let's get the show back on the road.
This shot was Sam's idea. He just wanted to show the scale of how much bigger that
We need to stay alert on the
Kelvin Excalibur is.
Message coming in, sir.
And of course, the Edsel joke back in 2009, everybody was calling the JJ Enterprise the Edsel Prize.
Isn't he the guy who works in waste reclamation and wears the really ugly sweaters?
Love the eye roll from Kelly on that.
Antimatter containment field is failing.
All available power to forward shields. Helm, full reverse.
And I just wanted to blow it up to blow it up.
I know you wanted to blow it up.
There's no reason for it. It's just, it sucks. This is our, taking a shit on, J.J. Abrams.
And I understood that.
Laugh out of that.
I understood that, but when I read the script for the first time, it was a big joke that it exploded, and my feeling was like, in this universe, or in the story that you're creating, literally hundreds, if not thousands, of people have just died, and to me that wasn't a joke. And so I actually didn't want this to just be kind of a throwaway, ha ha ha, we blew up the JJ, prize. But what I suggested to Josh, and what was only hinted at, it didn't actually come out, because this particular suggestion, Josh didn't use, they used other ones, was that and this is a spoiler, was as soon as the Mirror Excalibur emerged into this area of space, they started scanning all of the other ships, and they determined that there was something on that ship that they needed for their own warp drive. And their shields were down, so they just beamed it off. They basically just stole an important component, and that was basically
MacGuffin.
like the MacGuffin or whatever. Basically, the thing that separates the matter from the antimatter. They just took it, and so suddenly, without the matter and the antimatter, being separated, they basically go. And indeed, my suggestion to Josh is that's how Ioka later on figures out what the mirror Excalibur has in mind, is that they've been trying to grab other little pieces of technology along the way, and that, maybe they're not as nice as they look, and they don't look that nice anyway. But that
I felt like that'd be getting into things too much and overthinking it, which Jonathan never does that.
I never overthink anything.
But at the same time, for me, it was just like if you go back to Into Darkness, like Scotty was whining about like, oh, we're bringing torpedoes on board, and this warp core is really sensitive. Oh no! And so it was just, their warp core was too sensitive, and they blew up. It was just, to me, I just wanted to make fun of J.J. Abrams. So
speaking of making
blew up, everyone loved it. Moving on.
Anyway, speaking of making fun of things, we go from here. Oh, and there's Ray Myers looking wild-eyed.
The containment field must have been extremely fragile.
Warmest greetings from the Love Federation. I am Captain.
This is where Jonathan did get his way.
Of the Love Ship designation Excalibur, and this is my first officer, Commander Presley.
Who needs a hound dog when you got a collie? Thank you very much.
All right, we're gonna first of all, Tyler, I love you beyond words. I know you have a girlfriend, I know I have a wife, but seriously, this was so awesome. I want to tell everybody the origin of Presley and Flower Blossom, because Josh keeps saying, Jonathan called me one day. I want to tell you how we got to that.
Okay.
All right. So Josh, and Josh sends me his scripts just to kind of get my feedback on them. And so he had sent me the script for Crisis, and I'd read it on a Saturday night before going to bed. And I noticed two things about it that I loved it, but there were two things that were bothering me. The first is that there was no Tyler in it anywhere. And like, how can you not have Tyler Dunivan in such an important Avalon universe fan film? There's got to be a place, because it's all these doppelgangers of everybody, whatever, and the only doppelganger of Tyler is, of Mason, is Dee Dee Mason, is a woman. There's got to be some way to get Tyler into it. So that was the first thing I was thinking. And the second thing was, it was actually a very serious fan film. The first script was deadly serious, with some gags thrown in. But the gags kind of felt like speed bumps on a highway. It was like you were going and then boom, and then going and then boom. And I thought, this needs something to lighten it up a little bit. And I went to sleep, and I had a dream. I guess I try to work on problems in my sleep or whatever, or I dream about Star Trek, one or the other. But I had a dream about The Way to Eden, which, for those of you who remember TOS, is the episode with the space hippies. And specifically, one of the characters, Adam, who's the guy with the guitar, who is constantly in, every situation, just breaking into song, stepping into Eden, yay, brother. And, he's just doing this in scene after scene after scene. And I woke up and I was like, wait a second. What if one of these myriad realities was a reality where the space hippies were in charge of Starfleet? And it wasn't the Federation, it's the Love Federation. And there's a character like Adam, but instead he's Elvis. Because Josh had told me that Tyler can do a pretty good Elvis impersonation. I seem to remember that. But I wasn't sure if I dreamed that or not. So I had to check with Tyler on that. And so actually that's what I did. Tyler, I checked with Josh on that. So I actually called up Josh in the morning and I said, okay, Josh, I think I've got a way to get Tyler into Crisis. But I need to ask you a very important question. Is it true that Tyler, who, by the way, is a Michael J. Fox impersonator, Barney McFly from Back to the Future, can Tyler do Elvis? And Josh said, yeah, as a matter of fact, we were thinking at some point of doing some kind of, an homage to James Cawley, who's sort of the grandfather of modern Star Trek fan films, because his, Star Trek New Voyages Phase 2 really took us into a new phase of Star Trek fan filmmaking with his amazing sets in upstate New York. And James Cawley is an Elvis impersonator in real life. And they thought that they would do a little skit where there's an Elvis captain, and he's like just Elvis. He was Elvising his commands. And in fact, I think Tyler even said, you in one of the other interviews, what it was going to be, like some of the things he was going to do, like what, like some samples
torpedo those Klingons.
Yeah. Fire those phasers.
There we go. Wanted it. Okay, we got it.
Yeah, just change up the lyrics to some Elvis songs and make them Star Trek-y. But
the last. Go ahead.
We conceived of that on. Well, I had that idea. We were driving back from Kingsland after shooting Ghost Ship. we were driving back, and I was like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if we did this Elvis skit, and I'd be Elvis, and captaining a ship and singing all of his lyrics, and then you'd have a female officer that looks like Anne Margaret, in the TOS dress uniform, like dancing in the background, and and then we kind of shelved it for we talked about it, we laugh about it every now and then, and that was 5 years ago when we first started doing this, and then what was it, a year and a half ago or whatever, Josh calls me up and says, so I was talking to Jonathan. Jonathan was like, can Tyler do Elvis? And it's like, funny you say that. So, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you something.
It's interesting, that you say that you read through this and you thought it didn't have enough comedy, and which is funny because, there was somebody else who read it and thought there was way too much comedy, but it's funny how things work out.
And I love this freeze frame. Look at just Alex's face. That smirk, that laughter is I believe not her acting. I think that's real. Like she's actually losing her shit.
She did.
In the first. Well, the first time that we did this shot right here, the first take that we did of this shot, which I think was just a rehearsal, but we were recording. And, I've finished, giving my line, and she looks at me and then looks back at the camera and then just doubles over in laughter, slaps her knees with her hands and just bends over. And, she just lost it.
Action.
Warmest greetings from the Love Federation. I am Captain Flower Blossom Allenby of the Love Ship Designation Excalibur. And this is my first officer, Commander Presley.
Who needs a hound dog when you got a collie? Thank you very much.
Well, anyway, so now that I had a confirmation that Tyler could play Elvis and do an Elvis, I said to Josh, okay, with your permission, I did ask for permission first. I said, I want to write a couple of scenes, a couple of characters into your script. And I'm going to send it to you. You don't have to do anything with it if you don't want to, but I want you to take a look. And I worked for the rest of that afternoon. And I came up with, all this backstory. It's not the USS Excalibur, it's the Love Ship Designation Excalibur, the LSD Excalibur. That he's Commander Presley. She is Flower Blossom Allenby, and the whole idea was that at inappropriate times, Presley was going to start breaking into Elvis songs. But I also realized that you had to be careful because this still was a serious fan film underneath it all. So you couldn't have them kind of take over the script and become a farce. So I wanted to have just some hints of them. And then even before you reach the halfway point, to find a way to get them both out, which we did.
They do
and that
kind
allowed
of bogart whatever scene they're in.
Yeah, because they're fun, but at the same point in time that you have to let the other they have to let the other Allenbys act and have their storylines. So I found a way to get them out, and they only return very briefly at the very end. And so I sent this back to Josh later on in the day. And so, Josh, take over the story. You get my script tweaks, and what happens in your mind?
Well, first I was like, okay, Sam Cockings, you know, rewriting my script.
Sam does that all the time. Sam does that all the time.
Yeah, don't give your script to Sam. He rewrites it and sends it back. I fixed your script. But no, I was reading this and I was thinking, like, is this going too far? Is this too funny? Is this too silly? Is this too off the deep end? But you know, I thought about where they did this in Rick and Morty, when they did this in The Flash, and yeah, they always pushed it just a little too far. You know, there was this part where, you know, Harrison Wells is meeting all of his doppelgangers, and one of them was Wells the Gray, like Lord of the Rings, "'Tis I, Wells the Gray," and oh, bad transmission. You know, so I was like, okay, you know, there is a precedent to just take it a little bit over the edge. Plus, while I was in the considering phase of it, Jonathan played a card with me. He said, "This is the reason that I think you should do this." And I went, "Damn you. Okay, we're doing it." So he convinced me.
I know how Josh thinks.
He knew exactly what to say. So, but I'm glad we did it because it's fantastic, and it's one of my favorite aspects of the film.
Mine too. All righty. Anyway, let's let it keep going here. We'll finish this thing eventually, everybody. More stuff from Sam. And of course, one Vance.
Steven and Vance.
All these ships, all these crews.
If we're going to get out of here alive,
We're all going to have to work together.
That's the first time we see Mirror Albie. And man, does Alex do a great job with her. This is another case, yeah, where like nobody is in the same set at the same time, right?
Right. This was all like people, like Vance was shot on his own day. Warren, Caitlin, and Alex were their own day. And then Victoria Archer was her own day. So this was just, and if there's one thing I could change about this film, it would be this sort of thing where we had to kind of, you know, do the reverse angle syndrome or whatever to have people in the scene. I wish I could have just had people in the scene together, but it just didn't work out that way. And so we had to, you know, do whatever we had to do to make the film. And but you know, it turns out fine. If you don't really point out that that's what you're doing, people don't know. But if I would do that differently.
A quick comment, if we could pause right here.
Sure.
On character interaction. There's about 3 different things going on here, you know, like you know, with character interaction, is that for these guys, they're seeing Derek Mason, but it's not Derek Mason. It's Mason's a woman, you know, it's this Dee Dee Mason. So they're like, well, this is weird because they know Derek Mason in their universe. Also in their universe, is it their universe or another? Well, who is there's a Jamie Archer there, and to some of the characters, she's dead in their universe.
So in Avalon, they believe she's dead, right? So they're seeing a version of Jamie Archer and going, "Wow, this person's alive." So they're seeing Derek Mason as a woman. They're seeing Jamie Archer, who they think is dead, is alive. And then on the flip side, the Prime Universe characters are seeing this soap opera actor as the captain of the Excalibur. And then Vance, of course, is, you know, deeply moved because he was very close to Jamie Archer. So I think everybody's just kind of like really weirded out by this situation. One last thing to point out about this scene: it was 20 degrees when we shot this.
Yes, we're all freezing our asses off.
December. It was like 11 o'clock at night because we only had Caitlin Bailey for a few days in that period of time because she was like leaving on a cruise or something.
She's going on a cruise, yeah.
So we had to shoot with her that night. So we just went until almost midnight, and it was 11 o'clock at night when we were shooting this. Glenn wasn't even there. Like, Glenn couldn't be there. He had some Christmas party or something. So he literally just like left the door open for us. Don't tell anybody, you know, left the door, at least that night, but he left the door open for us, and we went in, and it was really, you know, touching, and that he would allow us to shoot in his studio with him not there. But, you know, it's 11 o'clock at night, 20 degrees, and we're in there just kind of running the place ourselves. It was quite an experience, I can tell you that.
How warm is it in Arkansas right now? I know you guys have like
Oh
a foot of
gosh,
snow on the ground.
It's
it was
about
1 degree
5,
last
10
night.
degrees. Yeah, it's about 5 or 10 degrees here right now.
All righty. Well, we're only about 65 degrees here in Los Angeles, so it's all right. We have earthquakes and mudslides.
Must be freezing your ass off. Wow.
Really? I had to put the towel on as soon as I got out of the pool. It was really cold. All right. Anyway,
Alrighty.
here we go.
Interesting, Commodore.
All these universes meeting for the first time, I'm sure a lot of interesting things will happen. Commander, please
Once again,
escort them to the briefing.
amazing music.
This is the music there is actually just something I used from Ghost Ship because I wanted it in that scene.
And this is the first time I choreographed background.
Okay, so pause it here.
Wait, hold on.
Hey,
there you go.
So this girl in the background in the red dress, that's Julie. And she's one of our friends, and we're going to be doing a film with her soon. But the reason that she was like in this dress with the whole pregnancy thing going is for the gag at the end with star dates of our lives. Like she was going to walk in pregnant and add to that gag. So she was dressed up and ready for that gag because that was the next thing we shot after this.
Which I was completely unaware.
He didn't know that. So when we choreographed the background action, he just put her in there. And I'm like so busy trying to walk and chew gum at the same time with the camera that I don't notice that she's there. So we just ended up with pregnant lady in the shot. Okay.
Though she's kind of covering up, you can't really tell unless you look.
And another quick comment on learning to. It was really fun for me learning to choreograph background, because what would happen is it would be like you and you. All right, you stand here, you stand here, you stand here. All right, and we'd go for rehearsal. Oh no, we would be shooting, and it'd be like, okay, background action, and then all the actors would walk by, and then you'd have the doors open and your principal characters walk in and the doors shut. So you saw none of the background action because it was too early. And then it's like, okay, everybody, all right, count to 10, and or take 5 steps back or take 10 steps back. Okay, background action. And then doors open, characters walk in, doors close. Then all the background actors walk by when the doors are shut and you don't see them. So it's like, okay, let's try to tweak this one more time,
Yeah, with a scene like this, this is not going to be a 2 takes. You're going to go 5 to 7 takes on something like this, because there are all these little dynamics you're trying to work out. Like I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to op the camera while walking backwards. We're trying to make sure we've got it lit the way we want. We're coordinating the movements of all the background actors. We're making sure that the actors are hitting their marks at the end of the shot, because when they get to the end here, they're landing in a certain, set of lighting. So look, Warren landed in his light, for the end of the conversation. So we had to make sure they hit their marks. So, there are all kinds of different factors to a shot moving around like this. Back in the day, 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, a shot like this would take hours because you would have to set up, the steady cam and all this kind of thing. Didn't have gimbals, and it was way more complicated, but we were able to pull this shot off in about half an hour, start to finish, but we had to do 5, 6 takes of it just to get all of the different moving parts right. But it's worth it because it's dynamic, and you need dynamic things like this in your film in order to keep it from stagnating.
Yeah, I mean, you don't notice it. I mean, here's the thing, and I'm a graphic designer, and they used to teach me in design school, if you do your job right, nobody's going to know. Nobody will notice you doing your job right. And that's the thing. If Josh is doing his job right, you're just going to watch the scene and it's just going to continue flowing. But
it's too late.
Not having them walking would have been very stagnant, because then you have stagnant over here. But at the same point in time, this has its own dynamicism. And for me, by the way, this scene that we're about to see is one of the most amazing ones in fan film history, because you literally have the same actress playing 3 different characters in the same shot. And it does not look like 3 different actresses playing the same character in the same shot. It's the same actor, or it's the same actress playing 3 different characters in the same shot, but it's just so seamless that your mind doesn't even question it. And let's just watch.
Of the sensor readings from each of our ships indicates that we have all been pulled into some kind of gravitational bubble.
Some kind of? What kind of?
This was actually the first thing we
You're
shot.
doing that on purpose. Good. Then you should also know that I hate vague scientific language.
Because I wanted to just figure it out right off the bat, how we were going to pull this off.
We can go on together.
And it was raining. Raining when we shot this scene.
Not the right time, Presley.
You could hear the rain in the production audio.
When Alex delivers this particular line, and I saw it because I wrote this particular scene, and Josh said, "Okay, John, this is what you get. You okay with it?" And obviously, it's too late to change anything anyway. But when I saw how she delivers this line, and there's almost like, she loves him. You don't know that, but she loves him, but she understands that he's annoying the living daylights out of everybody else. And you can see all of that in the way she delivers this line. So I'm going to take it back just a little bit. I'm hitting the backward arrow. But
if you look at the three versions of her there, they're all reacting a different way.
Yep.
So you've got Flower Blossom in the center. She's got her own motivation. And then to screen right of her is Babylon 5, Crusade, who is like just trying to figure out what the heck is going on here and doesn't know how to react to it. And then screen left, you've got Stargate, who's just kind of like laughing at the whole thing because she's seen all of it before. So like the franchises are reflecting on the versions of the character. You know what I mean?
But I just love the way that she's enjoying the music, and then suddenly she realizes this is totally inappropriate. And I just love this delivery. So just here we go.
We can build.
Not the right time, Presley.
Easy now, Mama. Don't get all shook up. Hey, what do you know? It's a cowboy version of me.
Rick and Morty reference.
Yeah, and the cowboy. I mean, why don't you explain that to folks? The cowboy version of me.
Well, that's from the Rick and Morty episode where they had the Council of Ricks. Rick and Morty come into the Citadel of Ricks, and Morty spots a cowboy version of Rick and Morty and goes, "Hey, what do you know? It's a cowboy version of me." And Rick's like, "Wow, you're easily impressed." So it's just a Rick and Morty homage. And in order to have a cowboy version of him, well, we use the obvious costume that Tyler had, which was Back to the Future 3. So both a Rick and Morty homage and a Back to the Future homage at the same time.
With an Elvis there
yeah.
as well.
So it's a tribute to James Cawley, who is for me a fellow celebrity impersonator. I'm a celebrity impersonator myself, so I'm it's a nod to James Cawley being an Elvis impersonator and making fun of myself being a Michael J. Fox impersonator in the same shot.
I mean, there's so much happening in this scene, and it's just and it's wild. I mean, this is where the fan film had a potential of going off the rails, and I think what Josh did is he pushed the train just enough, and it got itself back on the rails again. But it was so tipping. But honestly, that's why I love this fan film so much, is that you pushed it to the edge and you let it fall back into place, and it all worked.
And I actually had a line or two of dialogue as Marty McFly, Clint Eastwood. I said something like, yeah, this is crazy, Elvis, or this is heavy, Presley, whatever, in the Marty McFly voice. Do what?
You said something like, "This is heavy. Can't you play Johnny Be Good?"
But none of that dialogue made the cut. But because do you think that would have been going too far? Or
I don't know. It's so perfect the way it is. I now can't imagine anything other than this. All right, let's let it play on. Here we go.
Version of me.
Wow, you're easily impressed.
The gravitational field.
Of course, we never explain why the cowboy version of him is there. It's just sort of
somewhere in space, there's a DeLorean
Warp space in the traditional sense, but
with wagon wheels.
Static area of subspace.
In this case, the gravity of the neutron star is being used to do this on a massive scale. How did this happen?
That's the only version of the Excalibur that's missing from this is a DeLorean time machine.
Our new sensor array. Our sensors detected technology inside the obelisk on the 4th planet. A planet that
And there's another version of Kelly's character. And of course, Lauren Osborne, who everyone just adores.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she got her start in Interlude.
That the beam
That's
created
right.
a breach between
She was only like 16 years
multiple
old.
quantum realities, in effect making the neutron star more dense. The gravitational field was magnified times 10 without the stars coming
And of
into
course, the
physical
element of
contact with one
compositing here is that,
We're
you know, that
theorizing that
Elcars
at the
is
exact moment we
posed.
tried to engage our warp engines, the Planetary Union vessel engaged its
And you've got Adam doing the Orville soundtrack here a little bit.
Yeah, a little. And Ray
Again,
Myers, you
it was
know,
really
he
cold,
did really well.
and you can see Ray's breath there a little bit if you
we
look
all
up because
fell
it
into a
was
subspace-
cold.
Here,
We were
let's look.
filming.
Let's see if we can see Ray's breath. Hold on, we're gonna go back. How fast can I go?
Not going
Music
very
on.
fast.
Well, I'm trying to hold him. Oh, there we go. What if I just can we see his breath? I don't know. Maybe a little bit.
There, it's right there.
Yeah.
There. So
Yeah.
you play it right there.
Very subtle, but it's there.
Yeah.
Could have been a tear.
In
Right
essence,
there.
we all fell into a subspace well, which is why we haven't been crushed by the gravitational forces. Yet.
So you said something, Jonathan, that I didn't realize. You said that the way you wrote the characters, Flower Blossom is in love with Presley?
Here's the best part.
Yeah, well, at the time, I didn't necessarily think that. And then I saw that scene in the briefing room, and I just saw the way that she was there was this kind of undertone of, I really do adore this person. And yeah, and I don't know how many people out there know this, but I decided to go a little crazy with this, and I wrote an entirely alternate universe Avalon musical that takes place entirely in the Love Federation. And there are 2 parallel love stories in it. The first love story is Nurse T'Pren and the security chief, Williams, whatever. I decided to call him
Williams.
Brian Wilson. Well, I decided to call him Brian
Okay.
Wilson, which I know is
Gotcha.
the name of her actual husband in real life, but also the name of the Beach Boy, because it's a musical. And the whole idea is that the entire musical is songs that you would have heard on the radio driving to work at Paramount in the 1960s to work on Star Trek. Like, it would have been on the radio, you know, the Beach Boys songs and Petula Clark going, you know, don't sleep in the subway, darling, except that's don't sleep in the shuttle, Presley. But anyway, there's all this stuff of these wonderful songs from the 60s that most of the people watching it will have never heard before. But the idea is it's a musical. They're not asking, why are we singing? They're just singing because it's a freaking musical. But the idea is that it's basically the sequel to The Way to Eden in the Flower Children universe. And they go to Eden, and it turns out that Eden has been poisoned, but it's actually a plot by a Romulan from the future who comes back to try to destroy the present, which sounds like a bad sci-fi movie, J.J. Abrams. But anyway, the whole thing about this is that T'Pren and Wilson are in a relationship, but she's a Vulcan and she can't feel anything. So the relationship is actually internally, it's kind of destroying her. And he doesn't want to destroy her. He doesn't want to force her to be affectionate when she can't do that. There's a great scene at the end where she sings "Take Another Little Piece of My Heart" to try to basically bring Wilson back to life, where she gives of him to him of herself. But at the same point in time, there's this interplay between Flower Blossom and Presley where you can kind of tell that she's in love with him, but that would never be allowed. So, you know, a captain falling in love with her first officer, So that's where the tension is. And of course, the whole episode goes by. One of the loves is requited, the other one is not, but it's just fun watching the 2 of them get explored during this. So, and there's dad jokes. But that all being said, we'll see if that ever gets made. But anyway, let's go back to this fan film here. Otherwise, this thing's going to take forever. Here we go.
In time in our universe that's 200 years in your future.
Which means that time can travel at different rates in different universes.
Which could add all kinds of complications if we don't act soon.
I love Ray
Captain
Meyer's
DeConde.
acting, by the way. He does a great
This
job
is your
as a
universe.
fan
Great
and
at
a donor.
everything that he does.
What do you think?
Yeah, he's such a nice
While
guy.
you investigate the obelisk, we'll see if we can trade supplies with the other ships and get us all in a better place to work together.
Viva Obelisk! Viva Obelisk!
Not the right time, Presley.
Oh, baby, don't be cruel.
And by the way, when Josh first played me this, Adam had written some music behind it that didn't have the Roomba beat. And I said to Josh, this was me directing, and from afar. And I said, could you ask Adam if he could make it a little faster? Just add a little Roomba beat, because that's what Viva Las Vegas has in it. And an hour later, we had that. So that was great. I say it here, it comes out there.
I'll meet you on the surface in 30 minutes.
I figured that these two would be enemies, like right off the bat. That Mirror and Prime would instantly know that they were enemies, and so that's why they have this little stare down there. And then Avalon's just kind of weirded out by the whole thing.
And that's just really amazing acting by Alex. That she was able to capture all three characters.
Yeah, she was great.
Here the real villain of the film enters like a thief in the night. You just barely see that he's here, but this is the real villain of the film, which is Vance's.
Phantom.
Oh, stop on this for a second. Of course, everyone who takes a second to read this figures out what this is.
Glenn Wolfe Reynolds Tessie.
Yeah, I just thought that would be a fun thing to do because, the Discovery's sister ship was the USS Glenn. So I was like, oh, we can throw in Wolf, Reynolds, Tessie. Just a little fun joke to throw in there. So anyway.
Yeah, and I definitely saw it. And by the way, it's a Crossfield class, and yet there is no USS Crossfield. I just wanted to point that out.
Well, there are different variations of Crossfield classes, as we saw in Strange New Worlds.
There you go.
So, but the Phantom is the real villain of the entire film, but he's just so silent about it that nobody realizes it till the end, except for maybe Aoka.
And this was something where I'd made a suggestion to Josh, and John, you were in your suggestions, but initially the scene that's directly after this, which is a close-up on the Phantom's hand, was first, and then Aoka walks in. And I had suggested putting her walk in first, and then having her notice it, and then what is she noticing? And then we see the close-up.
Yeah, it worked out pretty good. And that's just like a video cable connector, the things that you can use to, it's a scanner now. Just put a little blinking light in post. Sam did this render of the obelisk, which I liked. And then, of course, Glenn Wolfe built the little control center from this side of the Paradise Syndrome. He went and looked at it, and just built it, and he put it in the swing area at Warp 66, where they have different kinds of sets, and the wall behind it that you see there is actually Space Station K7. So we just kind of redressed that with some different colored lighting.
Doing so much with so little. That is Glenn Wolfe. That is the miracle. We need to call him the miracle worker, honestly. Forget Where's Waldo. He's Scotty.
He built this. Okay, he built this whole set for cheap, too.
And I remember watching an interview with Alex that she did. I wish Alex could have been here, but unfortunately, she is very, very busy with some wonderful things happening in her life. But apparently, when Tyler walks up to this, he began doing the Elvis hands, and she's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And then
Kung Fu hands.
Kung Fu hands.
I didn't know anything about Elvis. I'm not really that big of an Elvis fan. I have some of his songs on my playlist, but I'm not a big Elvis fan. And so when Tyler comes in and he's doing this, I'm like, "The hell are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, haven't you ever seen Elvis? This is what he does." And I was like, Okay, do that.
And a quick note on singing most of Presley's dialogue. I don't think I was actually given explicit instruction to sing the lines. I think I just inferred, Jonathan, that's the way you intended. And it occurred to me on set, and there were some of these songs that I didn't actually know, like Suspicious Minds, and the one coming up, I Can't Help Believing. I didn't know either of those songs, and I was having to put we're about to do the shot, and I was having to pull these songs up on YouTube and listen to them and get the melody and go like, oh, okay, this is figure that out. But
yeah, I mean, yeah, this time the girl is going to stay actually is not one of his better known songs, not like Blue Suede Shoes or something like that, or Jailhouse Rock, but it's a beautiful, beautiful song. But you did an amazing job of it. Now, interestingly enough, when you say a little less conversational, a little more action, I didn't think you were actually going to sing that, but it came out so perfectly. Everything you were about to see Tyler do, ladies and gentlemen, was just Jonathan just going yes, 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 yes every time I saw it. So
because
Tyler,
he's so talented, man.
I owe you so much. So anyway, here we go. Let's just enjoy Presley here. The karate hands.
We need to find a way to activate this control panel. It appears to draw power directly from the planet's molten core. Intriguing. We need to be careful with our scans. The last time the console was scanned, the landing party set off some kind of defense sequence. Without scanning it, how in the hell are we supposed to figure out how not to trip another booby trap?
A little less conversation, a little more action.
Presley, be careful. We've never encountered anything like this before. Remember that wise man who once said, only fools rush in?
This guy is one of the best minds in his universe. Boy, are they screwed.
This thing could be loaded with traps. I really think you should take a step back.
Not yet, Flower Blossom. I just can't help believing. I just can't help believing that this time this console's gonna.
So perfect.
Presley, speak to me.
And of course, I referenced that zapping effect from Paradise Syndrome.
And I am proud of that. That wasn't scripted. I just thought, why not? And it seemed appropriate. So
yeah, and I just like, okay, perfect. I just love it again. And then, by the way, this next scene where Josh, we'll talk about it, but the idea was that all of the other realities were going to be other fan films. You'll find out in a second. That's how I ended up getting a producer credit on this fan film. But anyway, let's just watch what happens with Presley here.
He deactivated the traps. It's working.
Ooh. Feel my temperature rising. Help me, I'm flaming. Must be 109.
I'm sorry, but I have to get him back to our ship.
We'll continue on here.
And of course, Hunka Hunka Burnin' Love is playing.
Love ship Excalibur. This is Flower Blossom. Medical emergency. Beam Commander Presley and myself directly to sickbay.
Yeah. Groovy, Captain.
And Josh is the transporter chief or whatever.
Yeah, that's the Love Federation's version of II.
Groovy, Captain.
I need like a voiceover, so I just, yeah, groovy, Captain. Just do it on my phone.
And then, of course, the following line had to happen.
Ladies and gentlemen, Presley has left the obelisk. Incredible. The beam isn't just opening a breach.
And I love the...
Yeah,
that was not too much. Yeah, that was not too much. That was perfect, Adam. And so anyway, this next little bit is, Josh had an idea of having some other fan films represented in this next sequence. And this was, and he was like, would you mind contacting, I think the first person you asked me about was you wanted to contact Rob Caves for Hidden Frontier, because you felt like Hidden Frontier kind of started everything into that and New Voyages. And you're like, could you ask, Rob?
Because you knew him and I don't.
Yeah, I know Rob Caves. And, ask him for permission, because you obviously don't want to use it without permission. And Rob was like, fine. And then I kind of took that ball and I just ran with it. And I started going through my Rolodex, if there's a Facebook friend equivalent of that. And just like, okay, well, who else? Gary O'Brien. We could do the Holy Core
Pacific
and
201.
Pacific 201.
Went crazy from there.
Matthew
And
Blackburn, Survivor Trilogy, Mark Largent, the Star Trek puppets, and like just watch how much stuff is here.
It's using the neutron star as a gravitational
and it got
lens
to a point where
scan
you were doing
alternate
so
quantum
much
states.
stuff like that, not just that, but things like that for me.
Looking
And
at
you
the
know,
future
adding
state
story
of
on
universes,
stuff that I
which
just was like, if
explains
you're
why
gonna
the tear is
do the
expanding
job
to
of
more
producer,
quantum
you might as
states,
well just
and
get
it
the
will keep
credit.
expanding until we stop it, threatening
It's all about the
Now,
credit,
I just
everyone.
want to pause on
infinite
this.
universes.
This or this?
The 3-shot.
Okay.
I didn't know if this was going to work. I was guessing the whole time we were doing this. So I came up with kind of this technique to have her be three in one, you know, 3 versions of the character on screen at once, and hoping it would work, and it did. So like there was a technique that I had to go through to coordinate the time to where they would all speak at the time I needed them to talk, and not be speaking when I didn't need them to speak, or react a certain way when they were reacting to something. I just sort of came up with something in my head that made sense on how to do this. We shot it. Thank God it worked. but I didn't know at the time whether it was going to work or not, but I'm glad that it did.
And let me ask you a question, because I'm looking at this right now. So you know, Avalon in the center, she's in focus, and then Prime on the right, she's in focus, but there's a soft focus, which there should be, in the back. For Mirror, because she's a little further away from the camera. Was that on purpose, or did you do that in post?
I did it in post. So like they kind of change position a little bit throughout the scene. And so I wanted to make it look like, you know, there's a, you know, and if you look at the background's even more out of focus. So I tried to make it like optically accurate, and I was even doing post rack focusing between the characters, because why not? But the real thing here that stands out, that should stand out, is, okay, you've got Avalon in the center, and then screen right you have Prime, screen left you have Mirror. And what's going on is we're practicing stagecraft. So the hero in the center, hero, you know, mentor on the right, you know, it's angel and the devil on her shoulder is what it's supposed to be. I considered Prime Mirror to be the angel and the devil on her shoulder. So the angel's on the right, the devil's on the left, and then the protagonist in the center. And so both of these characters are influencing her in a certain way. What we're also showing here is kind of the steps of narcissistic abuse, in a way, in the relationship with Mirror. The Mirror, in this scene, they bond. You know, Prime seems like she's kind of a drag. She's boring. Mirror's exciting. She's fun. She knows the lingo. She's kind of love bombing Avalon. But then later on, you see a shift.
That's true. All right. It's art, folks. This is art. You're watching art. Okay, let's continue watching art. And there we go. There's the puppets. There's Pacific 201. There's Star Trek Continues.
On other worlds in our reality.
Shorts.
They were created by a race called the Preservers. Seeing this, suddenly so many of their actions make sense.
Yeah, and now, yeah, you can
And
see
now
that
Prime is out of focus because she's really close to the camera. See?
And in fact, there's a little out of focus as well for, you know, for the
Avalon.
I see that. Yeah. Of course, it's not easy, you know, because they're all against green screen. You know, you don't really notice it when
They would move endangered species to new homes across the galaxy.
But there is a little bit of aliasing going on.
Models and figured out who to save.
In our universe, they went so far as to place an energy barrier around the entire galaxy.
This scan is going beyond the multiverse. That must be how they're able to scan so many possible timelines.
See, now Mirror's closer.
They're tapping into the very dimension where the multiverse converges. The cosmic data stream. I wonder if all Michaela's Allenby call it that. Proper grammar. Nice.
Now, I noticed that she says Michaela's Allenby, but she says Starship Excaliburs. It should be Starships Excalibur. Just wanted to point that out. I actually made that comment when you first showed me the script, but by the way, there's Nick Cook. You got a little bit of Intrepid in there. There's something from the Lost Starship on the bottom.
The Lost
right?
Starship, a frame from the Lost Starship, and Sam's Stargate film.
Yeah, there you go. And what about what looks like the
Galaxy Quest.
Galaxy Quest there?
Quest.
Did you take that from? No, actually, that's actually from this episode, isn't it?
That's like a promotional shot that Sam made when we were crowdfunding.
Somehow, the preservers learned how to scan the cosmic stream itself.
That's the Holy Core.
Astonishing. This would give them unlimited knowledge.
I don't think there's ever been a fan film that's shown so many other fan films in it.
What happened?
Fan film clip show.
Maybe they went there.
There's Hidden Frontier on the lower right, lower left. I mean,
own doppelgangers becoming
Ambush and Farragut again.
Where space, time, and thought all become one. Deep breaths, Michaelis. It's a question
Test of time.
Unfortunately, not have time to answer.
Oh, and here's something else that's sort of interesting, and I just noticed it. Do you see how Prime's uniform looks like it comes around, and the flap that's in front is the flap that goes towards her, I guess her left. Yeah, it's her left. In TOS, the flap for Kirk goes in the other direction. But in the same way, women's buttons are different. I don't know if you know that, but women's buttons are reversed.
Yeah.
Women's zippers are reversed. And the reason for that, by the way, if anybody was wondering why are women's buttons reversed, is apparently back in Elizabethan times, when buttons were first created, or Victorian times, whenever it was, women were dressed by somebody else. Proper women were. So somebody else had to do the buttons. And that's why they were reversed, because you never did your own buttons if you were a woman. Did you know that? But anyway, I just...
Makes sense.
And by the way, same thing with Babylon 5. Anybody ever noticed that Ivanova's neck thing always went the other direction to Garibaldi's and Sheridan's, because once again, it was a woman. So it went the other direction. So anyway, I don't know if you meant to do that or not, but it's pretty cool.
Well, I didn't design that dress.
We can close the breach by reversing the frequency and simply shutting it down. But we still have the tear to worry about. If we move our ships together and emit a broad spectrum warp field, that might reseal the tear. It's going to be quite a feat of engineering. We'll need to figure out the precise frequency to harmonize the warp fields of every ship. I have an idea about that.
And then this is the scene that inspired Avalon Universe to begin with.
Take it away, Vance.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first meeting of the Transdimensional Council of Menard.
It's an idea I got from an ancient science fiction television show.
Right, The Flash.
Rick and Morty.
and by the way, both the Flash and the Rick and Morty references are correct, because they both did the Transdimensional Council. One of them was Wells,
but the Flash ripped it off from Rick and Morty.
Exactly, and we ripped it off from the Flash,
from them,
and Rick and Morty. And there's that glare. Nobody does a glare quite as well as Vance when he's playing the Phantom.
And Antilles, the starship Antilles.
What are you seeing out there, Cap?
Which the model came from Kenneth Thompson from Starship Saladin. He sent it to Sam, and Sam kind of brought it into our world.
And so there's George Cayenne
on his own set, and so did Frank.
Now, this is interesting how Frank got into this, because this was really supposed to be Alec Peters, right?
It was originally going to be Alec, and then Vance said, hey, can you find an opportunity for Frank to be in it? And I was like, well, yeah, we really don't have to have Alec in it, and don't tell him that, but
it's too late. He's already angry at you for not putting him in your
film. He's already mad at me for not putting him in it. So we just switched out Alec for Frank, just to work Frank in there. And we'd already had Alec in something, and so it was like I thought it would be fun to give Frank an opportunity to be in it.
And of course, George was also this is George is on the other side of Josh, and
he's in New York.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is he's on the other side of fan films, in that while Josh is filming on these intricate sets at Warp 66 and Neutral Zone Studios and whatever, and you're literally driving 12 hours one way to go and film in Georgia.
16
hours one way. George is basically walking into his living room where he has created with cardboard his own sets. And I love that. I love the fact that such an advanced fan film is working with such a, you know, grassroots fan film. You know, there's room for everybody in this playground, in the sandbox. It's wonderful. And of course,
I
we all
like
love
George.
George.
I've always admired George,
George is a man. I love George.
And so it was important for me to have George in it. And when he sent me his video, and I was like, you know, it was SD.
Standard definition,
like, yeah. I was just like, well, I guess we're putting him on a screen.
Yeah, got to reduce him so you don't see it.
So we put him on a screen. Sam offered to like upscale it for me in Topaz, and I was like, nah, we'll just put him on a screen.
Admiral, the entire system has collapsed into a gravitational phenomenon we've never encountered before.
The Excalibur?
There's no sign of them, sir.
Yeah. All sorts of other ships coming in.
Sam was just going bananas, man.
Yeah, it's like if there's a ship out there, he puts it in there.
A little bit like looking into a mirror, huh? I guess.
So here's more with the stagecraft, where the heroic character is on the right, the villain character is on the left, and if you notice too, the shadows in the direction of the light are telling you something about who the characters are.
I can be a reflection for you.
Normally, you're going to lead with your key light, but instead we're trailing with our key light, and we're leading with shadow for the villain character.
And you don't even see it, do you?
And she's a little darker. I mean, she's
know what you're talking
she has
about.
shadow, but she's not as dark as Mirror.
I hate
Her darks are
Mirror's
darker.
got more contrast.
Knowing all that you could be. Here you are taking.
And then there was like an organization for
just
how
like
you were
that
going
other
to shoot a scene like this, where it's like
dead inside.
you have to decide what order
like
you're going
my
to do
life
these
just
shots
the way
in.
it
So
is.
she's only having to make this change
me
one
you're trying to
time
convince,
instead of having to go
or
back
yourself?
and forth.
What does it
Now on the
matter to
shot,
you?
on some of these
Because
shots,
we're the
what I was
same,
doing
you and
is I was having Caitlin Bailey
If you
be
had
the
lived my life,
over-the-shoulder
you would
stand-in.
understand that.
And then
We
I
do
was
have a
shooting
situation to
Alex
solve
over
here.
the shoulder on a
Maybe
green
we should get
screen. I
back
would
to
take
that.
Caitlin out and put the
Now
back of Alex. See, this was on a green screen with the over the shoulder, and then I put that in post. So
Now,
like that shot, you go back to that shot there, the one right before this. So that was the middle of the shoot. So we did all of Mirror's close-ups first. So we shot all of this first. Then we segued with this two-shot. So she does her last thing is Mirror in the two-shot. Her first thing is Avalon in the two-shot. And then we did all of Avalon's close-ups. But this over the shoulder is post.
So is this a composite or is that Caitlin?
It's a composite.
Okay.
So
Now,
we're looking over Avalon's shoulder to Mirror. Avalon was shot on a green screen and composited into the shot. Originally, Caitlin was in the shot, and we took Caitlin out in post, created a new wall, and then composited the other version of Alex in the foreground, blurred it, matched the lighting, contrast, all of that.
Now I want to ask you, because you guys had a whole bunch of different shoots, right? How many shoots for this fan film were there?
7.
7 shoots. Was this
7 shooting days?
Was this scene filmed at the same time? Was Alex doing Mirror and then going back and changing her costume and then doing all the stuff? Was that happening all on the same day, or was that a different time?
No, this is day one. This is the first day of shooting.
Oh, she really
This
had
is
Mirror
literally
down
day
already.
one. So we shot this after the scene with Elvis and all of that. This was like the next thing we shot.
Okay, so she basically went from being Flower Blossom with that hair
to
being. And is this her real hair, or is she wearing a wig?
This is her real hair, and she wanted to have everything, every character, every version. She wanted to have a different makeup and hairstyle. So she's changing her makeup and her hair and her clothes for every single version that she does. But in this, we shot, like I said, we shot Mirror's close-ups first, then the two-shot, then Avalon's close-up. So we shot this scene all at once. But then this part where I'm doing the over-the-shoulder was shot later on. It was a different day. So the over-the-shoulder that you're seeing in the foreground here was a different day on a green screen.
And I remember in an interview with Alex that she was talking about how it was that 20-degree day that she was trying to braid her hair to be Flower Blossom, and she couldn't feel her fingers because it was so cold. And
This was, yeah, that's true. This was the first day of the shoot. So this is October of 2022. So it's not so cold this day. It's about 65 degrees while we're shooting this.
Okay, so it's a different Flower Blossom day that she
Yeah,
did the
that was later in the shoot. We started off in the 60s for the first shooting day, got down to the 20s in the middle, and then when we finished the shoot in March of 2023, we were at neutral zone, and I was in the bathroom throwing up from heat exhaustion.
maybe TMI, but yeah, that's we love what we suffer for. We love our fan films.
That was the
But
extremes
that's the
of
most
this.
dangerous part of the whole plan. I know how you doubt yourself. Let me show you what you're capable of. That you have the courage to do whatever it takes. You have the intelligence, the drive. What you deserve is the honor, the prestige, the respect. You don't have to be this silly, clumsy girl. You can be powerful. I know that's what you've always wanted. But I don't.
And
This
she's
is a
playing
once
these
in a
characters
lifetime
so
opportunity
differently,
to
giving
learn
them
from the
all
road not
distinct
taken.
personalities.
And you should
Yeah.
take it.
She really puts
You're a
so
fool
much
if
into
you
this.
You really feel like she's being abused here.
Okay.
Yeah, you go from this, and we kind of accelerated the process where you go from the love bombing to the control. In this scene, of course, this was not in the script. This was just a deal where when we shot with Cora, for Needs of the One, we liked her and her character so much that it was like we had to put T'Pren in this film somehow. And I'd had this vague idea for this scene, but it was not in the script. So we did a shooting day in January of 23 where we just shot this. We just shot T'Pren stuff for a couple of different films, and we just sort of improv'd this scene.
Your setting is too high.
And her ink is real.
You need
That
to knit the bones
the
slowly
tattoos,
where it
those
will
are
run
hers.
properly.
And then, of course, this isn't a stand-in. It was just her for the two shots. So when Glenn gets up, he was in the shot with the mirror one. He walks across in front of Avalon. That was the AI roto brush. So Glenn was just in he was in the first shot, and I had him move across to the second.
So that you don't have to torture your patients.
So can you explain that one more time? So Glenn gets up.
Yeah.
So right now,
so he's in the shot with Mirror. So where the Mirror and Glenn are the same shot, and then her as Avalon is a different shot that was taken later. So she went and she changed into Avalon. But Glenn gets up. So when Glenn got up and he walked across the room, there was nothing there.
And then
so
you had a
he gets
rotoscope him,
up.
so he's walking in front of her.
He's walking in front of her. I isolated him on his own layer using the AI roto brush, split the shot, and had him walk in front of her. So that was completely done in post.
And I think you said in another interview that didn't exist. That technology didn't exist.
No, it didn't. Not back in 2020. No, especially version 3 of the AI roto brush only came out a couple of months ago when I was actually doing this scene. So
that's pretty amazing. It looks so natural.
The giveaway is his feet, but if you look at
see
it,
that. Now that you pointed it out,
Did
now
you need
I can't unsee it.
I'm just here to deliver these medical supplies. I guess so that you don't have to torture your patients. Just put them down where you're
Meow.
at. You may also leave sickbay.
Da-da-da.
and of course you're seeing camera shake here. Well, the dirty secret is it's a tripod, and the camera shake is in post.
Ah ha ha.
But it adds to the realism of it. Same here. This scene, the camera shake is all in post.
By the way, I'm going to tell you something really, really fast. That logo is not on the door. That was put in post as well, everybody.
Yep.
And that was not easy for you to do. Every time you
Took
see that logo
hours.
in this, yeah, in this next sequence, you'll see because every time the camera's moving, the logo has to move.
And same kind of thing. They have to walk in front of the logo, and that's the roto brush.
For helping us with provisions and medical supplies.
Lending a hand is one.
And then the camera shake was downstream of all of that.
Appreciate the tour of the ship. It's interesting to notice the subtle differences. Some not so subtle. I hate to ask, but I noticed some of your crew members carry scars. Look like they've been in the fight of their lives. But not you. You're just as pristine as any of your doppelgangers.
Not all scars.
And I thought we should light this scene completely differently than either of the other two bridges, so we did something very different here.
Repairs. You could have destroyed the entire assembly.
Sorry, Captain.
Really, we only used one light. There's just one light for this whole scene.
Interesting.
Don't you dare pass judgment.
We had a softbox boomed
What I've had to go
from the
through to
ceiling.
keep this crew alive. We could be the last ship. If I don't maintain a firm control, humanity could die with us.
She does such a great
And
job.
of course, it's we balanced for one temperature, for one color of light, and then used a different color of light so it would look colder. So the setting of our light was off from the camera so that it would look colder than it is.
And that'll get you killed in space.
You have your supplies. I think we're done here.
And we end with villain on the left and hero on the right. And then you cut the camera and you give it 5 minutes and Warren changes his clothes.
Now, my big thing here is that the bridge is pretty much a closed environment, and so if Jakande is walking onto the bridge, wouldn't he see the other Jakande? And
Not if his back was turned to him, maybe, or if he was on the other side of the room.
Actually, what I was thinking is this in my own head canon, Warren, this mirror Jakande was hiding in the bathroom.
Yeah, he might have been. He was taking a whiz.
Taking a mirror whiz.
Taking a mirror whiz.
Don't screw this up. Succeed, and we'll beam you back at the last second. Fail, and you die.
Wow, best boss ever.
I wonder why he turned on her.
Yeah, really. And once again, we see Sam's dad.
And Ed Oborowski, who was one of our executive producers.
Want to be on camera? Just be an executive producer. Meanwhile, back at the obelisk.
This was fun. Victoria Archer did her own scar here with the makeup. And it was fun just to work Mirror Archer into this. And then Vance, just he's like, she's the one person who could talk to you like that,
Sending it to you now.
Gentlemen, I believe I have the answer.
It was fun to kind of mirror the characters,
Go for it.
to have them doing sort of the same things, but in different ways.
Got it. Thank you.
By the way, quick question. Is there a reason why it's just a picture of Archer there and she's not really talking?
Because I didn't have anything of her to use for that.
Oh, she just did an audio recording
Just
for
did
you?
it audio on her phone and sent it to me.
Oh, okay. Because she's a mom and she's a very busy woman.
Well, because I came up with kind of the idea to do it with this way later on. I was originally going to have it just be audio. And so, that the little cell phone style wallpaper was just something I came up with later.
Yeah, it works.
By the way, I love the tat.
Thanks.
And kudos to Jennifer Rader for delivering the line, thanks, with, such realism. I mean, it wasn't like a throwaway or anything. She did a good job with the thanks. She's a good guy. She's an amazing actress, actually.
She's fantastic. We were lucky to have her, really.
Yeah.
And then, of course, okay, this is fun because a couple of things. Well, like this alien guy here, we only show him in wide shots, and different actors take turns behind the alien mask. Sometimes it's Tyler, sometimes it's Dan Reynolds.
Warren.
It was Warren a couple of times. But if you go to this previous shot with Lauren Osborne.
Oh, let me go back to the previous shot.
Yeah, you go to the
See how
previous
fast I can
shot with
go back.
Lauren Osborne.
So, who's the alien in this shot? Is it Dan?
It's Dan. It's Dan Reynolds here.
Okay.
It's been Glenn a couple of times. So this is actually, even though the rest of this bridge, this is the Avalon Bridge, is being shot at warp 66, she's at neutral zone. And we just grabbed her and took her into the corner with the Spock scanner because we wanted her to play this part, but we only had her at neutral zone. So we lit her at neutral zone like we light warp 66 with the different lighting instruments, and then replace the panels to make it look like the Avalon Bridge. So, and you don't notice the difference because of the way it's lit. Because with Avalon, we lit it with modern LEDs, and with neutral zone, we lit it with old incandescent lights like you would classic Star Trek.
That's why this looks a little bluer.
Mm-hmm.
Because the LEDs look bluer and the incandescents are yellower, right?
That's right. And the LEDs are set for that cooler setting on purpose, so that they'll blend with the way that the rest of this is lit. This is warp 66 here.
We just found the cure for the Drakh plague and started a mission of pure exploration. And then this happens. First time doing a multiverse adventure.
By the way, quick question. Was that when it was raining? Because it looks like they're ADR'd. It sounds like they're ADR'd.
Yes. Yes.
So, yeah, and so basically you just heard pitter-patter. You couldn't actually get their lines there. Okay.
Yeah, it's a metal building, and it's raining in a metal building, so yeah.
Yeah.
Chakande to Allenby.
Chakande to Allenby.
That wasn't Warren's voice, by the way. Just
Allenby out.
throwing that out there.
Oh.
Was that you or me?
It was me.
Okay.
Sometimes it's
You're always
Tyler,
the first
sometimes it's me. We don't ever actually get ADR from Warren, so we just ADR him ourselves.
Oh, wait. Here's my shot.
Yeah, this was all you.
Yeah, I want to play that one again, but I just want to talk about really quickly. So
Okay.
as I was discovering how many more ships Sam was throwing in, I was like, well, and I saw that he had like a Galactica, and like, could we have like the original Galactica? And I thought, because I grew up in the 1970s and then 80s, and I was like, wait a second, let's just do an homage to like late 70s, early 80s sci-fi. And so I decided to throw in that, and every time I came home from junior high school, Battle of the Planets was on, and then Star Blazers, and I'm like, okay, can we do all that? And I found these models for Sam to use, and he just created, and this is basically, hey Sam, could you do this shot? And I directed it, and he did an amazing job on it. Here we go again. And those of you who are younger than the age of 40 will have no idea why that gives the rest of us who are older than the age of 40 goosebumps.
And that was just, a situation where I was like, yeah, let Jonathan have his fun.
Yeah, I mean, and that was the way you were with a lot of stuff on this. Let Sam have his fun with the opening. Sure, we'll put Frank, Parker in it, not a big problem. And I did the music for that as well. When I say I did the music, I basically, just sampled the three theme songs and put them together, and then Josh just dropped it in, and I felt like I was a real part of it. So this
Kinda
was
like
something
looking in
where
a mirror,
I had a little bit of an effect on
I
this,
guess.
because initially the only direction the elevator was going was just straight up, and I said to Josh, you can't you can't have that many decks in the starship. So he put the sideways on. I really appreciated
This is where the Jonathan Lane attention to detail actually, really helped us out. But this scene is what the point of the whole story was. This is where, Avalon learned,
what you loved and
she takes something away. Well, what she takes away is that seeing all these different versions of her own life She learns to value the life that she has and the
Daddy's really
choices
proud
that
of
she
you.
made. And of course, the
You
subtext
know
here
how
that we
Dad
allude to, we
is.
never directly
He
say
calls
it,
me twice a
is that
week.
Avalon's
He
father
cried when
has
I got my
died
command braids.
and Prime's
Don't get me
father is
wrong,
still
there's
alive.
nothing that
And
compares to commanding a
that is what
starship.
has separated
But
their
I prepared my
trajectory.
whole life for this
Because
I wanted him
Prime
to be proud of
wanted
me.
to please her father, and he was such a huge influence
It
on
wasn't
her
until I
life
got here
that she
that I
followed
stopped to ask
through with the
myself if it was
trajectory
what
of
I really
being a
wanted.
starship captain. Whereas when Avalon
let the
lost
training
her
distract me.
father, she kind of free-formed it.
that
She
being what everyone
responded
else
to her
expected me to be
pain
was the
by
right
kind
thing.
of going into her own shell and her own
The daughter of
experience,
a
and
revered
she began to
admiral.
live her life in the way she wanted
It's my
to, which was for
destiny to command a
science.
starship.
And that's why these characters are so different.
So
But
here I
because
am,
they've had these different trajectories, they're reacting
Captain
to things
Allenby.
differently. Prime regrets
You?
that she became a captain. Avalon misses her father. So they
Michaela.
both have something that they envy in each other's
Your
lives.
life is your own.
And if I remember correctly, your daughter, her name is
I
Michaela.
suppose
That's
if
correct.
And you
wise
wrote this
captain
scene
were to
specifically
have any
for
words of
her
advice,
when she gets older to
Mhm.
watch
it'd be to
This
live
is
how
as
you
a
my
choose.
message for
message to
her.
her.
And what
So
is
I
your
hope-
message to your daughter?
Command, science,
My
adventure,
message to my daughter is that she can be anything in life
live
that
it
she
for you,
wants to be.
and not anyone
Whether that's a
else.
chiropractor or a WWE professional wrestler, her
Well, he's
life
the
is,
chiropractor.
her life is her own, and she should choose the path she takes in life herself.
The energy beam from the obelisk is reversing polarity. Signal coming through.
This is just a gorgeous shot.
Excalibur C-137 is moving ahead of the fleet to the focal point.
So
to
Rick and Morty
channel
reference
reflector
there.
pulse.
We are
Other
in
ships
fact
are moving
saying
into formation.
Rick Sanchez
Almost
is
time
from
to
the
head
Mirror
back to your own ship,
Universe.
Commander Allenby. The barriers are starting to reform. The lead ship is starting to phase.
They're not phasing back to their own universe.
They're phasing to mine.
Captain, none of the other ships are phasing.
Hail them.
Aye, Captain.
This was your plan all along.
Don't tell me you're surprised. You're responsible for your crew, and I'm responsible for mine. And we are not going back to that hell that we came from. Disengage the warp field, and you'll destroy every ship. Let us go, and you'll survive. At least for a little while. Besides, can't risk any of you coming after us.
You would strand all
And
of us here
both the
with no
mirror
way
and the
back?
Prime bridges here are the same set, so you see how lighting makes a
Because if you
huge
had
difference.
lived my life,
Really does.
you would.
No, I wouldn't. I guess not every Michaela Allenby is the same.
So
It's not about
with Prime
circumstance.
here,
We can
the
all
lighting
overcome
is
circumstance.
the
You
incandescent
are truly evil.
Fresnels, the same
so easy
type
to
of
say
light
from
you
your
would see in the
utopian
original Star
perspective.
Trek.
It
Not
must
maybe
be
the same
nice.
wattage value, but it's the same kind of light. And then of course we're doing the classic Captain Kirk thing here, where we're using a flag to darken, part of her, and then put part of her in a brighter area, isolate the character. Just kind of a little original series trick I picked up from an infamous gentleman by the name of Vic Mignogna.
Quite infamous.
To decide your own fate, choosing between good and evil.
Whereas with regard to Mirror, that's the LEDs. So that's the LED softbox. So completely different philosophies on how this is being lit. These two versions of the bridge.
Maybe this time, I won't let someone else decide for me by sending me back there. You're right. We're not the same. And if the
And
only
with
people who
these
judge me for
incandescent lights,
are
there's no
people like you?
diffusion, there are no modifiers. It's literally just a bare bulb and some barn
then I
doors.
feel pretty confident in who I am.
By the way, that line was delivered so amazingly well. I know where that line came from, and just nailed it. In fact, I'll let you all hear it one more time, just because it's so wonderfully, arrogant, passive aggressive.
The same. And if the only people who judge me for that are people like you, then I feel pretty confident in who I am.
I may have given her a line reading.
Captain, we're not phasing into our own universe. Sir,
Sir?
Why is this man smiling?
Because he knows it's one step ahead of the bad guy.
And he knew exactly when Jamie Archer was going to be coming out of that turbo lift.
Where did they go? Were they destroyed?
If we worked out the calculations correctly, they returned to their own universe.
With what they were trying to do to all of us, we would have been justified in destroying them.
If we had, we would be no better than them. I have a feeling, though, I might just run into her again someday. Maybe.
Will she?
Anything's possible. I guess that's the price of doing the right thing.
Boy, that was a hard shot to do.
Close one, Jakande. I'm glad it worked.
Amari.
In this hat.
And then, yeah, Warren's wearing this ridiculous hat. We told him to take it off, and he didn't listen to us. And we didn't notice, didn't take it off. And so it's just in the movie now.
Well, that's okay. It looks like he's, about to take a trip. Like,
he was very cold, which is why he was wearing the hat.
He has no hair, for God's sakes. It's he wants the hat on there.
At least it matches his shirt.
At least it matches his shirt. And and for me, I'm just like, he kind of packed up before heading over to the Planetary Union ship. This is the only thing he has, and he's heading back to a different universe. Good for him.
Anyone else for her? He'll live a better life here with us.
Thank you, Captain. Captain Allenby, I think it's time we exchange hostages.
Bye, Captain Jakande.
Yeah,
The motivation that I gave the two of them was, imagine that your best friend's little sister has a crush on you.
One more time, Jamie.
And that's how they played it.
Once we figured out
But
the
in reality, it
controls
was
to our
Warren that
technology,
was all into
Jamie
Caitlin
analyzed the
in
signature
real
of their
life.
reflector pulse.
Oh, really?
That's how we were able to stay one step ahead of them.
That little Casanova
Thank you for trusting me in both universes.
with that velvety smooth voice.
And then, of course, she was not on set with them. It's reverse angle syndrome. She was shot on her own day.
You ready to go home?
This may still not work. Hey,
I'm pulling a Vance here. This is my phone.
You shot that in your phone?
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
So I could move around with it. I've got a pretty good image stabilizer on the 15 Pro Max titanium.
Tech the tech.
Tech the tech.
Allenby, science the science.
There it is. The line's in there.
hey, don't forget to captain the captain.
Or Captain the Commodore.
This is the most important part of the movie to me. Coming out by the
This is the captain.
Can we pause
So,
it?
so this is big deal here. This is an homage to the Next Generation episode where no one's gone before. We have the confused Asian guy in the miniskirt. This was a must for the movie. It was the only thing that had to happen. Everything else, this was, my having my fun,
This isn't going to be an easy ride, but I know that we can get through it together.
Commander Presley and I...
I have to thank who's your CG artist for this?
This was Keith Hamilton who did this shot.
Okay, so when I imagine the love ship designation Excalibur, I was sort of wondering like how flowery it would be. Part of me was, thinking about something out of the Yellow Submarine or whatever, and just, or Partridge Family Bus or whatever. Anyway, what he created here was so freaking perfect. And the only thing I asked him to do was the L's weren't quite long enough, or the L, both L's weren't quite long enough because it looked like ISD Excalibur. So we just extended that a little bit. And of course, NCC 1969, because, that's when the episode aired. But yes, as far as I'm concerned, this is the love ship Excalibur.
all. We reach.
We
are one. As
there
one.
you go.
All I ask is that each of you give your best efforts.
So if you'll pause here, what we have here is if you go back and you look at the Next Generation episode, you had 3 characters in this type of shot. You had the confused Asian guy in the miniskirt, but you also had ugly hairdo, crazy hairdo lady, and guy in ugly sweater. So we recreated those characters as well because we wanted to be authentic. And of course, there was the foreshadowing of wearing the ugly sweaters with Ray's character earlier in the film. So he was a ugly sweater guy, and then
Where where Caitlin has the line, Jennings, isn't that the guy that works in waste reclamation and wears the really ugly sweaters?
Right.
There he is.
We foreshadowed with that line. And then our friend Brandy, who did not want to be in any of our fan film stuff. She's an actress, but she didn't want to have any part in any of this. She did this for us. She was crazy hairdo lady. And then confused Asian guy in a miniskirt is a local actor named Vu Ha. And Vu was tickled pink to come do this. And again, it was like 20 degrees. And he's
not so local. He came all the way from Little Rock, didn't he?
No, he's from Northwest Arkansas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, he made the 3-hour drive out to Warp 66,
yeah.
knowing what he was going to be doing. And he's really enjoyed the fact that he got to do this scene, and he shared it all over social media, pictures and stuff. He was quite proud of this. So.
And yeah, it was freezing ass, and he's bare-legged and never complained.
Where he's wearing a Victoria Archer's uniform.
Wow. And I know how thin she is. So.
We will give you ours.
So yeah.
It's been an honor serving with all of you. Chakande out.
Back to Sam.
Asgard Court, 100%.
Shields are ready. Hyperdrive engines are fully powered. We're ready to go.
Prepare to direct the hyperspace window right at the focal point.
And then, of course, if you're a Stargate fan, you get this line here at the end.
Shall we trust?
Focal point computed.
Weapons at maximum.
The audience loves weapons at maximum.
How could they not?
Never give up.
Never surrender.
Never surrender.
The Union ship is moving into position.
Fire.
And Vance's background on the Galaxy Quest was just like an Adobe Firefly AI rendering.
Let's see if I can pause this next shot at just the right moment.
Here we go.
Not yet. The next shot. Alrighty.
We see it. There it is. Yeah,
there it is.
Winnebago from Spaceballs.
The Winnebago, yeah.
Now that the origin, and everybody's like, "Hey, wait a second! Did you do the Winnebago from?" Okay, that was Ray Myers, the aforementioned admiral from the Orville universe, who's been a donor for all of us. He's been a friend. He's just this awesome guy. We've all stayed at his house at some point in Plano, Texas, and I had shown him my 1970s, 1980s homage shot of the Galactica and the Phoenix, and he's like, "You know what we should have is the Winnebago from Spaceballs." And I'm like, well, Ray, I had to pay Sam to get the models made of the other ones, because unfortunately people do charge him to make the models. And I said, so you want that Winnebago in there, you got to basically pay $150 for them to model it. And it's like, fine. And so that's a $150 Winnebago that Ray decided that, let's have it in there, and it is in there. So.
We can appreciate, we got a Cylon base star, we've got the Excalibur from Crusade, we've got a Klingon bird of prey from season 1 of Discovery, we've got the Andromeda Ascendant, we've got the battleship Yamato, we've got a Reefer, and the Spaceballs, Winnebago, and in the back we've got an Ori toilet ship.
And I don't know if you can see it if you look very closely, but if you look at the back of the Yamato, this is almost dead center, the back of the Yamato, just to the left of it, that is a NX-01 variant with the secondary hull added.
Doug Drexler style. Yeah.
Yes, we do love that ship. So boom, there it is. You can see it on the screen there. So, Sam, hats off to you for, getting all of these ships in there. And it doesn't look overcrowded. I mean, it looks crowded, obviously, because it's supposed to, but it doesn't look like, there's too much stuff in it. It's all wonderfully laid out. It's
you did the Andromeda for me, didn't you?
Yeah.
Solar activity returning to normal. And FYI, the next stellar
and now we're just back in the Avalon.
Years from now on Stardate 43126.1. The intense gravitational pull of the neutron star consumes
just
all of the
Alan
stellar
B.
material of the
nerdiness to
red
finish
giant
it
until
off.
it builds up on the surface and explodes every 196 years.
How much she loves
We had a bet
science.
on the exact star date.
Science.
The captain lost.
We almost died in a bubble universe. And this is the first thing you bring up now that we've escaped.
It's the most science way of knowing that everything is back to normal.
And then, of course, the reverse of the mirror universe scene with T'Pren, just to give her a really nice happy wrap up for this episode.
Speaking of happy wrap ups,
or as Vance would say, a happy ending, but not in the
not that way.
Not the one you're
not in
thinking
the
of.
massage kind of sense.
Shuttle flyby
He's been going around bragging to people that I gave him a happy ending. We had to clarify that we didn't mean it the way it sounded.
I'll be sad to see you go, but I guess everybody deserves their happily ever after.
Enjoy the journey, Lieutenant.
And there's his wonderful boy Royce.
Goodbye,
And again, a year apart. Shot, reverse shot. A year apart. And there's Julie behind Aoka. And then I thought it would be fun to juxtapose the happy ending with the Phantom's betrayal of the Mirror Universe ship.
By the way, did you notice the name of the shuttle is the Mussolini? Or I think it's the, let's see. Yeah, Mussolini.
Jeez.
Because, in the Mirror Universe, you got to honor those heroes that we consider villains.
Yep.
You sold us out. You'll pay for this.
Dun dun. Yay! Directed by Josh Irwin and Tyler Dunivan. Sharing that credit. And Neil Bilby, who did a wonderful, wonderful job with your lighting and your camera angles. Adam, who is a just musical genius. You're a genius, Adam. And the executive producers who helped make everything possible. And Gene Roddenberry, who really made everything possible. And then this.
This was a must for me. This is like the confused Asian guy. This scene was. And of course, the shot of the screen, we're kind of mocking this scene from Demons Part 1. The shot of the view screen is a port from Demons Part 1, so it's the same shot.
And just when you think, oh, she's stormed out, then this happens.
We book in, that pose that Tyler had him do earlier in the film.
So are the star dates of our lives.
And that was sort of an homage to our friends at NerdTube, Star Dates of Our Lives.
Because that's what they were calling demons. There was a certain scene from Demons. Oh, there's Jonathan. There's my girlfriend again in the middle.
Oh, and there's somebody who's not your girlfriend but still in a skirt. There's Ray Tessie and Glenn Wolfe, the owners of Neutral Zone Studios and Warp 66 Studios.
Neil in the middle.
Greg Mitchell helped us out with the camera as well.
Yeah, Greg Mitchell's cool, dude.
Like Jeff Strauss.
Jeff, yep.
And I like your decision, Josh, to put all this behind the scenes stuff there. I mean, it's you have to roll your credits over something, and I think these photos are great.
Just it shows the experience that we had. We all enjoyed making the film, and it's a thing where.
By the way, I just want to really quickly before you go on. These were all of the fan films that appeared in this fan film. So this is the full list, and every one of these creators are ones that either I or Josh contacted directly to get their permission. Anyway, go ahead, Josh.
But we had so many of these BTS photos, and it was just fun to throw them in the credits just to show this is what fan films are about: having a good time with people you care about, enjoying the experience, enjoying the journey of creating.
I will stop the share, and then suddenly we're back. We're full size, folks.
All right.
So I think this is probably my longest podcast ever, but I hope that folks felt like it was worth the time to get all of this insight, because like I said, this was an amazing fan film. I think it just really needed to be picked apart in ways that you wouldn't get in other interviews. So did you guys have fun?
People either enjoyed it or they were bored to tears.
Yeah, exactly. How could you put such crap on it? You made me spend 2.5 hours watching this thing. I didn't make you do anything.
I really like that way of doing it. Even though, it was a 42-minute film, and we've been on for 2.5 hours now. But
4 years, I don't know. It might be longer than that.
But what you were talking about, where if you're watching a film in real time and people are talking, the directors are talking about a certain scene, but then the film keeps moving, and then they have to jump to, oh, well, this is what's happening now, instead of being able to take the time and talk about everything that they have to say about that one scene or this aspect of whatever it is. I feel satisfied with the way we just did it.
Well, folks, if you like this, let me know in the comments. Of course, the 2 or 3 of you who are still watching, let me know in the comments, and we'll see what they say. So to wrap this up, Josh, you have one more Avalon left in you. I know you're planning on some other ones potentially down the line, but you want to just really quickly tell us what the progress report is on the Once and Future Captain?
Crisis on Infinite Excaliburs was such a heavy lift that once I finally finished it, I just kind of zoned out and took a break for a few weeks because I just had to. I mean, that was one of the most challenging. It was a fun editing experience. It was very challenging. And so I haven't quite jumped on Once and Future Captain yet. I probably will within the next few weeks start working on it. And what I want to say with regards to Tyler is that he's been very gracious about, being so supportive in this film, and a lot of his work was behind the camera, like we talked about, working with the actors. This was the big film of the year, and it showcased Alex's character, and Tyler was very supportive of Alex. And Alex really couldn't have, she did a great job, but she really did lean on Tyler a lot. There were scenes where she was a little overwhelmed with all that we were doing, and he helped her get through that experience. And now so much of what she did was her own talent. I mean, I don't know that I've seen an actor come in and be able to, that's an unimaginable thing, play all these different versions of the same character. And so she was a warrior in the sense that she was doing her own makeup and all this stuff. But Tyler, he took a step back from being the star of the movie and supported the other actors, is I guess what I'm trying to express. And I was really grateful for that.
Well, it was all her own talent. I just helped her calm down a few times when she, there were a few times that she got a little flustered, and understandably so, because she, had or overwhelmed is the better word for that. But yeah, I just help her, hey, take a breath. Let's chill for a minute. Okay, now let's do it this way. But it was all, she had it in her the whole time. It wasn't because of me.
But she was a warrior, man. She was doing her makeup in 20-degree weather, all that stuff that you were talking about. Her devotion was, I've never seen that kind of devotion in an actor before. Somebody who was willing to go through all of that just to do the part perfectly. If she complained or if she was frustrated by it, we never knew it, because she had just the perfect attitude on set the entire time. But
we didn't know she was sick either in Kingsland. She had some kind of food allergy or some malnourishment issue or something.
She got sick from something she ate in Kingsland, and nobody knew about it until later because she hid it. The show must go on, and you would have never known by watching the performance that she was giving, or even just seeing her in passing. You would not have known she was sick, and none of us knew that until later. So that is a testament to the kind of actress that she is and the kind of person that she is, how devoted and strong she is. And she's dealt with a food allergy condition her entire life. And again, you don't know unless she tells you that it's the case. But what Tyler did this time around was he took a back seat to everybody else. And so what's going to happen this year is that this is his chance to really shine. He's the hero of this upcoming movie, The Once and Future Captain. And this is a situation where we've told these sort of parallel stories about our characters. We've told Allenby's story and we've told the story of Mason and Archer. They're all going to come together now for one final adventure where it's going to culminate in the story of Avalon Universe going right back to Ghost Ship, going back to the aliens we met in the cosmic stream, going back to this Klingon bad guy who's going to be played by Sean Patrick Kennedy. And so this is the ultimate culmination of the story where the characters all come together to start to fulfill their Avalon Universe destiny. And there's no set day that it's going to come out. Again, you can fingers crossed and say Halloween. I hope we make that deadline. But much like Crisis, this movie is going to come out when it's done. And so we're going to put everything we have into making this its own cool thing that's just as cool or better than Crisis. And if you thought the collaborations in Crisis were cool, wait till you see what we do here.
Oh boy. At least this one you won't have to worry about me interfering, because I didn't touch the script at all, and I'm not going to be as naggy as I was with the editing this time. But anyway, I can't wait to see it. But at the same point in time, it will be bittersweet, since that will be the last major episode of Avalon. I know you've said there might be some stuff beyond that, perhaps even 24th century Avalon. But for right now, the journey is ending. The
journey we started 5 years ago in Kingsland, and that first shooting day where we had such a good time, that journey's going to end, or that leg of the journey is going to end. And then we're going to take a break. I'm going to work on some other fan films, some Dreadnought, some Tales from the Neutral Zone. And we're just going to, see what comes next. We have an idea for what we want to do that we may revisit in a year or so.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'm so glad that both of you are part of the fan film community, that you're making these things for us to watch and enjoy, and that you're having fun while doing it. I mean, I've seen you both stress as well, especially Josh. But when all is said and done, when you have a chance to just kind of talk about your art like we just did, I mean, that's got to feel great, right?
For a long time, I didn't know if we were ever going to make this film. It just seemed like so many things were getting in the way. COVID, interlude. I didn't know if we were ever going to get here. I didn't know if we were ever going to make Crisis. And I sometimes for a while I was referring to Crisis as my Axonar, my own personal Axonar. Just because this was the film that meant so much to me. And I'm like, are we ever going to just be able to make this film? And so to get to the point where I'm sick of watching it is so nice. Like, all right, we did it. I don't ever want to watch it again. Yay.
I just made you watch it again. Well,
I
anyway,
mean,
guys, yeah. It's okay. It was a fun way to watch it. Anyway, guys, I want to thank you for your time. I realize that we're going into our third day of talking about all this. So anyway, stay warm there in frozen Arkansas, and I guess we'll see you again when your next fan film comes out, right?
Yes, sir.
All righty. Live long and prosper, everybody.